All right, folks, we're going to be starting up in just a moment. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We're getting everything ready. It's going to be quite the show. We're looking forward to this. 2, 1, and hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Boss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I'm happy to be here with you. Today is September 18th. It is Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Excuse me. I have a cold, and I am happy to be here with each and every one of you to speak about the issues that are going to be affecting us all, talking about things like fentanyl, talking about immigration, illegal immigration, talking about our nation, our economy, the world. And I'm looking forward to speaking to everyone about this. And we already have comments coming in. We have user has been banned, has said hello. Hey, it's good to see you. Jan is with us. Jan, good afternoon to you as well. So we're going to be talking about a lot of things in so many events. And most of all, we're going to be listening to you. That is the point of this program. Every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we come together to hear what you have to say about the issues that are affecting us all, to hear your voice, because we believe in the First Amendment. We believe in your right to speak up, whether it's, and this is not just an American thing, this is anywhere in the world, to speak up and talk about what you think is important. And we hope to hear your voices, whether you agree or disagree with us. Now, before we start with the main stuff, I do want to mention that it has been, so far, since March of 2022, 21 times, those who are watching this program on Facebook, you may have the audio silenced. You may have the video cut because the internet overlords have been attacking us mercilessly. We have just been notified of over, I believe it was 20 different cases where Facebook and some of the social media giants have been trying to suppress our voice, to suppress your voice on this live stream without providing timestamps, without providing anyone who has been offended or affected, and just trying to shut it down. We are aware of this, and we are not going to back down. We are making you aware of each and every time this happens because they want you to comply, to obey, and to not ask questions. That is not the American way. That is not the First Amendment. We do not agree with that, and we will fight that each and every time because we are here for you to share your thoughts and your views and to make sure that our elected officials remember they are elected. They are subservient to the public. They have an obligation to serve us, not the other way around. And the internet overlords working for and by directive of the FBI does not scare us. We will not be silenced, and we will continue to share your voice. With that said, let's start with some of the global things. Like we like to do on this program, we look at the world, the impact of what happens in America to the world and from the world to America. I want to start off with something that I don't know a lot of people did notice. I think we spoke about it somewhere else, where we see that the world is getting crazy. We now have that in Switzerland, there is a bill that is being proposed that is going to punish the citizens of Switzerland for having their temperatures, heating their homes this winter if it's above 19 degrees Celsius or 66 degrees Fahrenheit for those in America. Now, this is terrifying. This is terrifying because this is the governments of the world stepping forward and saying, hey, you don't have a right to protect yourself, to heat your home. Literally, this is protecting the life of yourself and those in your household. You don't have that right. The government gets to decide if and how you get to protect your family. Now, this is from Swiss Info itself. This is a fact check. And in the fact check, they say, well, no, that's not real. That's just an internet meme. Here's the most important thing you can learn about this. The answer of why is this not true? Why is this a fact check false? Because it hasn't happened yet. Because the Swiss government on September 22nd will make the final decision. And listening to a spokesperson from the Department of Economic Affairs, Education, and Research for Switzerland has stated that it's not current, it's going to be in the future because they don't have the energy. Because gas and oil and electricity, the prices are skyrocketing, and to be able to manage this at all, they're going to have to take away your right, the people of Switzerland, from being able to heat their own homes. Now, my question about this is real simple. How long is it before you don't get to heat your own home? How long is it before the rest of the left-leaning governments in the world decide, no, hey, Switzerland's got it right, you just don't have that right? Now, someone may say, well, Mike, that's a little extreme. You're not getting that. Governments are going to say that. Well, look in California. In California, the government has told the people, you can't charge your electric vehicle that they told you to buy so that you would have electricity and power. So that because you wanted to have the electricity and power continuously, they said, get rid of your gas car and get an electric car. And now that you did that, they have rolling blackouts because you can't charge your electric vehicle. And how far away is that from saying what Switzerland is saying, that they're about to tell the people, you can't heat your home in the middle of the winter. The government will decide whether or not you can heat your home. What is the proper temperature to have your home at? They get to decide. You just get to obey. Isn't that terrifying? Now, Yusuf bin Ban mentioned that his view on fentanyl is very different than others and that it should be declared a chemical weapon. Now, I'm going to get into that. Please don't let me forget this because we will get to that a little bit later in the show. But I think it's an important point of view. As for talking about what's going on in Switzerland and is affecting the rest of the world, he says, buy heavy cloths. Well, here's the thing. We know that, as an example, in the United States, clothing is up 5%. Inflation over the years, 5% just on clothing itself. And your electricity costs are up 68%. Inflation is continuing to rise around the globe with targets well into the double digits, looking at close to 20 to 25% inflation over the next year and a half. Who can afford it? You can barely afford the electricity, and now you have to buy clothes on top of that. And why must you be imposed upon? There could be medical reasons. There could be lots of reasons why you need your home to be a little bit warmer. Why does the government get to come into your home and say, hey, we're going to check your thermostat? In fact, we have seen that the smart thermostats, those items that are connected to the cloud, to the internet, that the government and many businesses are able to go into those devices because it's electronic, like your electric vehicle, because it connects to the internet and the cloud, and they can come in and into your home with your property and tell you this has been disabled. You can no longer control your own products in your own home, that some third entity is stepping in and making the decision for you, and that decision is coming from the government itself. I cannot see any way that this is legal, how this is productive. This is authoritarian. At the highest levels, this is authoritarian. Because you have no say in the matter. You can't override that cloud that has made the input and turned off your electric vehicle, that has turned off your thermostat in your home, that has turned off the electric products that you have, the smart products you have in your household, and just says, no, it's not going to charge now. And Yusuf bin Ben makes a great point. The elderly are going to suffer. They are going to suffer because they don't get a choice and they don't know how to override these things. They were told to buy these things because it would be good for them. It would save them money. And now it's not. How's it saving them money? By denying them services that they already paid for, that is already essential to their life. So people may say, well, Mike, the fact check in Switzerland, they say it hasn't happened yet. Are we supposed to wait until after the fact, after it's already affected people, or after the fact that we're going into a winter and people are being denied their services and potentially dying because the government has written off a bunch of people as check marks? Well, they're just old. They're going to die anyway. Is that really the mentality we're supposed to take? Especially in the United States, where we are proactive. We are the government. We don't have to wait for the government to do something stupid and then say, oh, well, we want to stop that. We have the ability to reach out to our government ahead of time and say, we see what they're going towards. We see the direction. Don't go there. Don't do that. Let's not deny people their Fourth Amendment rights. Let's not allow the government to micromanage individuals' lives, because the more that a government can micromanage your life in any aspect, the more it will micromanage every aspect of your life, and you have no freedom. That is something that we strongly believe on this channel. Jan mentions that fact checkers are known to switch words around in order to make their point. It is a known tactic. Well, Jan, in this case, the fact checker, as we have shown you and we'll show you again, their whole argument lands on the fact that it hasn't happened yet. It's not that it's not true that they're planning this. It's not that it isn't true that this will have a negative impact on the people of Switzerland. It's that it hasn't happened yet. So it's false news because it didn't happen yet. And if you're warning people ahead of time, well, you're misinforming people because it's not a law yet. See, that's the fact. And this is why we know that fact checkers in the United States, as hired by Facebook and many other social media companies, they're just opinion makers. They're just people hired for an opinion. They're not official. They have no weight or power. They're just an opinion that the social media companies like, that governments like, and that's what they're pushing. Just another way to push propaganda. And we need to be aware of that. And yes, I agree, user has been banned. Smart equals spy. We have published, it was back in 2017, that we showed the proof that Facebook does go into your smartphone and will turn on the microphone, will turn on the camera, and will listen in. We know that Alexa will listen into your conversations, will listen to you in your home as you're having conversations, as you're sleeping or having sex. We know that they are doing this. These are invasions of our privacy. We need to speak up about this, because the longer that we say nothing, the harder it becomes to do anything about it. So it's happening in Switzerland, but how long until it's happening in the United States? I think not very long. I don't think that many of when we're talking about our NATO partners, when something happens in one group, it tries to happen everywhere. I mean, that's one of the reasons why in the United Kingdom, so many people wanted to get out of the European Union. Because once the European Union made a decision, every nation in the European Union had to fall in line. The people in the United Kingdom said no, and that's why we got Brexit. But in the United States, we have that same problem. So that is a problem. And of course, this is referring back to the preeminent issue, which is the cost of energy, oil and gas. The fact that Nord Stream 1 is still shut down. That this continues to be a problem for the world, driving up the cost of oil and gas. It's already gone up because the United States under Joe Biden decided, excuse me, that the United States under the Biden-Harris administration decided to cut all of the leases for getting roads, to build pipelines, to have oil and gas. They made that decision. They knew that that transformed America from being an energy independent nation that we were in 2019 into an energy dependent nation by 2021. And that drove up the cost in the world, necessarily skyrocketing, to borrow the term from President Obama, the cost of energy, to deny Americans the ability to live their lives. The fact that Russia is taking advantage of this in their proxy economic war in the Ukraine, and they're using Nord Stream, the oil and gas, to Germany to help in that, is not making this situation any better. It is making it worse. And we're not doing anything to help this. And I wish that that were something I could say, well, and I know that you've heard that Joe Biden has been touting, well, the cost of gas is down. We are doing such a great job. You've heard Joe Biden and the press secretary for the United States have come out and said over and over again, well, look, the price of gas is down. Their energy prices are working. The Inflation Reduction Act is already helping you. Except, as we know from the CBO, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics itself, we know for a fact that the cost of food is up 11.4% for food that you have in your home. That's the stuff you go out to the store, your milk, your eggs, your meat, your flour, your rice, up 11%, 13% if you're going out and eating out. And that's in the United States. The prices are worse in the rest of the world. And this is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, where they're trying to lessen the blow. They're trying to make the Biden-Harris administration look good. But meanwhile, food is up, energy is up, electricity is up, the cost of vehicles are up, clothing is up, your rent is up, transportation is up. The only thing that went down a little bit is gas. But guess what? That's up 27% year over year. We're still in a rising market. And this is something that is targeted to continue to go higher going forward. How bad is it? And I'm going to get to the comments in just a second. But mortgage rates, the 30-year fixed mortgage rate is up. This is the fastest increase in interest rates in 50 years. In literally my lifetime, I'm 54, about to be 55. This is the fastest rise, a double in mortgage rates that we've seen in half a century, which means that going forward, interest rates, that the cost of inflation will increase. We are in the middle of a rise, not a plateau, not lowering. Things aren't getting better, and they're not going to be better. And we have been saying this since January of 2022, that this is the problem we're going to see for approximately 2 years. Now, at least 18 months. We're looking at 2024 at the best case scenario to be able to get out of this recession, possibly stagflation, hopefully not a depression. But we know that this is getting worse. It isn't getting better. And there is no plan coming from any member of the government to help us. Let me go back a little bit to the comments here. So going back to some of the comments, user has been banned says that you want to put a candle under your thermostat in the summer and ice it and ice above it, and they would notice the abnormal temperature. The smart meters would not be able to work after that. Any of the smart devices, according to user has been banned, mentions that anything that's labeled as a smart device is about control over you. User has been banned says that he bets the Germans don't feel so smug right now. Well, the Germans don't feel smug because they've given up on green energy. That is a fact. They have turned on their coal power plants. They are looking to turn on their nuclear power plants, and they have basically abandoned this idea of green energy because it doesn't work. It's not efficient. It's not effective, and it won't be. Not for quite some time. Planet of the Humans with Michael Moore made this extremely clear. This is the most left-leaning source that you can look to besides President Obama's green energy czar, who has come out and done TED Talks saying that nuclear energy is the only solution to the energy needs of the world. Well, take a look at Michael Moore, who looked at the entire green energy movement and in Planet of the Humans, this documentary proves the left is lying to you. That is a fact. Jan mentions that the Treasury came out and said they're going to start a digital dollar, more ways for the government to see your spending and control it. Digital cryptocurrencies, the biggest problem I have with cryptocurrencies is that they have no asset base. There is no underlying value on these. They are purely emotional currencies that someone created. People believe it's worth something because they feel like it's worth something, and the value goes up and down based on emotions. Look at Dogecoin as an example. There is no asset behind it, but Elon Musk owns it, so people decided to buy it. Then the price rose, so people jumped in because it was rising. And it's crashed and it's risen both many times in between, but like most of the cryptocurrencies, they're down 57, 60% on the last year alone because emotions do not equal value. That's just the problem with digital currency, which is why I don't like it. And that's why governments love it, because they can manipulate it so easy. And yes, Jan, Biden is talking about now, well, he has to go out and buy oil. Remember, he went out, and last week we were talking about this. He, last month, went out to Saudi Arabia, begged them for more oil. They gave 100,000 more barrels. Then, just last week, they came out and said, Saudi Arabia and OPEC said they're going to stop that extra 100,000 barrels of oil, and they're going back to the regular numbers. As a smack to the face of Joe Biden, saying, not only are you insignificant, but we're not going to even give you platitudes to your energy needs. This is bad for America. This is a problem. Hello, John Cordisco. It's good to see you here. You know, and we're supposed to just obey. We're supposed to just think that the government has answers to everything. You know, inflation's going up. Don't worry. Joe Biden said, you're in a good economy. Everything's great. Don't worry about the fact that food is up because gas is down. It's still double where it was a year ago, but don't worry. It's okay because Joe Biden says you're living okay. Joe Biden, a multimillionaire who lives in a gated community, Nancy Pelosi, who lives in a gated community, Chuck Schumer, who lives in a gated community, who are isolated from the actual public and have no interactions with them. They think it's all great because they're making $175,000, $225,000 a year. They have John Warnock, who is a recent senator out of Georgia, in less than a year has doubled his net worth in less than a year because he got elected to the Senate. Gee, did you double your money in the last year? Have your investments doubled in the last year? It's amazing that this Democrat, John Warnock, in getting elected to the Senate in less than a year, doubled his net worth, doubled his income by going to government and not getting anything done, not improving the lives of American citizens. His income increased by double. Your income is dealing with inflation that they tell us is at 9% or 8%. And guess what? You go to the store and you know it's realistically 30, 35, 40%. You see what your bills are. You see how much food you're able to take home using the same money. You know that that's not improving your life. But John Warnock, he's living the life of Riley. Cori Bush is making an extra $100,000 as a landlord. Even though she's telling you landlords are evil, she's making an extra $100,000 as a landlord because she's in Congress. We see Nancy Pelosi has made millions because she's got investments, and just so happens that her husband is buying the very things that are about to go up as she puts in the next piece of legislation. I tell you, this is insane and upsetting. And then we see that the American news media wants to avoid the important issues. that mortgages, if you have a variable rate mortgage, I really hope you don't. I hope you learned your lesson from the subprime loan markets, but your mortgage is doubling. It's doubled in the last year. That's going to hurt people. And they don't want to talk. I had to go to the Financial Times. The United States government doesn't want to talk about this. And you know why? Because there's an election. And in the next 60 days, they want you to vote Democrat because things are great. I guarantee you, a week, maybe 2 weeks after the 2022 midterm elections, those very same Democrats are going to turn around and tell you that we are in a recession, that this recession is going to last until 2024. They're going to blame it on anyone and everything but themselves. They'll probably blame it on the fact that they lost the election. And they're going to tell you the reality that you are living through right now. They're going to talk about the fact that mortgages have doubled, and by that time, maybe tripled, that you're going to see interest rates continue to go up. You're going to see the cost of your credit cards, your loans, whether it's a car loan or any other loan, are going to go higher and higher, and no one is going to come and bail you out because it'll be after the election. They don't need your vote until 2024, so they're not going to bail you out again. They're not going to buy your votes on the cheap until they need it. And they won't even offer that until we get into 2024 and the next presidential election, because they think you're dumb and they can buy you easy. That's just the reality of it. And we can see that. But I wish that were one of the only problems that we see coming from overseas. And again, we'll get to the fentanyl. We're going to get to immigration. But I want to make sure we cover, I want you to see the scope of what is happening out there, because the major news media really doesn't want to address this. Did you know, as reported now by Reuters, this was 5 days ago. Nope. We have a call coming in. Hello, and thank you for calling into the program. This is No Soundbites Allowed. I'm your host, Michael, and may I ask, what's your first name?
Mr. Mike, John Cordisco, how are you?
Hey, John.
Sorry, excuse me, my voice a little scratchy. My allergies are kicking my behind.
That's all right. I got a cold, so I know how you feel. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. It's like a permanent cold. It's a lot of fun. You know, I was watching some of the chat comments about interest rates, and you guys talk about insurance. I remember I was a councilman from 2000 2007 upstate New York, and I said, listen, guys, when the stock market goes, your property taxes are going to go way up. And they go, you're an idiot. I said, I'm telling you. The pension funds, a lot of people that invest in the stock market,
you mean like
when it goes down, they're going to send a bill, and New York State will send a bill to where we live and say, oh, by the way, we're going to need an extra $3 million for the pension fund. And where are you going to get it from? The property tax owners. So people don't understand how things are all connected.
No, they really don't. And they don't think about, I mean, we're told the stock market is only for evil businesses. Guess what? If you have an IRA, you're invested in the stock market. It's about you.
Absolutely. Yep.
This is most of the money in the world comes from individuals, either directly or indirectly.
It's like your insurance, whether it be on your car, your home, or whatever business. Everybody thinks, well, these guys collect premiums, and they use those premiums to pay out people that have things that happen in their insurance and claims and such. No, they don't. These insurance companies invest it in the stock market and other things. There's no way they could survive just on premiums. So when the stock market goes down, the premiums go up. It's not brain surgery.
No, it's not. But the thing is that people are relying on the major news media because of their authority bias that they have been taught, that the news media has used out there, and said, well, it's not true until we say it's true. Just like with Switzerland, oh, it's not true that they're going to hurt people and micromanage their lives with their heat because it hasn't happened yet. So again, the authority bias of someone saying, well, we should be talking about it ahead of time so they don't do this, so they don't micromanage people's lives. See, that's the problem. They're telling you it's a lie before it happens.
It's amazing. I remember I got married in 79, so that was right when the inflation and the interest rates were really kicking in. And I remember distinctly now, I was a little luckier. I didn't have any children until 83 and 85. They were born. But it was tough. And we made pretty good money between her and I, so it hurt us, but it didn't devastate us. But I saw a lot of people get wiped out.
Yeah.
It was sad. Your old life savings is gone. I mean, credit card interest rates were at 17%.
They're going to go higher. They're going to go significantly higher. I mean, the fact is, the Fed is continuing to raise rates. They're looking at a 0.75 rate, and that's not going to be the last one. We're looking at interest rates going to where it has historically been for the last 100 years.
Yeah, here's
4.5%.
the box. Here's the box they put themselves in. The fact of the matter is, there's only one way to stop inflation quickly. Just one. And it's been proven by history, so I know it's correct. And I'm not an economist, but I do know this is true. The only way to stop inflation quickly is to put yourself in a recession. That's the only way.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no other way because they've gone so far now, that is the only cure. I mean, it's like bloodletting in the old days. Now we've got to take some blood out in order to save you. I mean, they made their options none and one. And so a recession will be devastating, and they'll have to implement it. They don't have a choice now.
Yeah. It's interesting. Go ahead.
Look for it. Look for it. I'm telling you.
Well, no, it has to happen. Look, interest rates historically have been 4.5%. It's not such a big deal that we're going there. The problem is the manner in which we're going back to the historical levels, the speed in which we're going to, and the amount of spending we have been doing that has deflated the value of our dollar. That's the problem. And people aren't prepared for this, nor can you prepare for it when we're moving at this much of a pace.
And the propping up of the petrodollar is the only thing that's keeping our currency worth anything.
Yes, the world is using the American dollar, especially to buy oil and gas, and that's why we're not in Banana Republic territory.
I'll tell you a funny story. Back when the Soviet Union collapsed, 60 Minutes went to Moscow and talked to some of the prostitutes there. And they said, since your currency is worthless, what do you use for payment? And they said, German marks, it was, solid currency, Marlboro cigarettes, and U.S. dollars. If you don't have one of those three, we don't do business with you.
Okay, so as someone who actually lived in Moscow in 1991, I was there. And I can tell you that everyone at that time were using anything but rubles. They were using every currency in the world. And literally, I would go out and I would buy something with an American dollar, and they would give me back French francs and Italian lira as change because they didn't want to use rubles for anything. Now, what's interesting about that is today, the ruble is worth more than before the war started, before the sanctions imposed by Joe Biden. Remember, that was supposed to devastate Russia and was supposed to be punishment for them starting the war in Ukraine and being aggressive, that he was going to punish them. The ruble is worth more. He has done more to help the Russian economy than anything Russia did by itself. That's how useless and inefficient he is. He is helping them and hurting the rest of the world. And Russia, as a result, has gone to China and helping China, again, another nation that has no love for the United States. And this is a direct consequence of the lack of planning that Joe Biden has had and his desire for votes instead of stability in the world.
It's pretty simple. The countries like the United States and Russia, there's no more Soviet Union. China has some, but Russia and the U.S. have vast amounts of natural resources. I mean, that are very useful natural resources, i.e. lumber, oil, gas, and we have it in abundance. Yeah. And there it sits, doing nothing. It's amazing to me. It's like you have $1 million in the bank, and you're getting notices from your mortgage company they're going to foreclose. But the bank says, sorry, you can't have access to your money to pay your mortgage because we won't allow it. It's the same with the resources. We have them. They just won't let us. They won't let us use them. It's really, really dumb.
Because they don't have a plan. Because the only plan that seems to be apparent is if you are in peril, if we don't use these resources and thus make the lives of Americans more dependent on government and more fearful, then you will vote a specific way. And that's why they're doing this, it seems. That they want the votes.
I'm well aware of government control. People that don't know me or where we live is I had my store in a very low income area for over 20 years.
Yeah.
I can see these people, I remember some of them would come in furious because their food stamps were cut $12. And they were just out of their minds. And that's the control that they want.
And that's what they're getting. I mean, that's why we saw that they're redistributing, and let's be honest, they're redistributing the college debt to everyone except the students. They're pushing that on us. Why are they doing that? Because now college students are dependent on Democrats.
And they don't go after the source of the cancer, so to speak, and that's the universities and the institutions and colleges that have been raking in billions and trillions all these years, and they have billions in endowments that just sit there.
I just recently saw a study, and I think it was by the Wall Street Journal. I don't have it for the show today, but for every dollar that the government steps in to forgive for student loans, colleges have increased the cost of college by 66 cents.
Oh yeah, I mean, I had a store for over 20 years, so let's use the real world scenario. The fact of the matter is, I charge X amount, say for a loaf of bread. I don't even know what it is now, $3. But what happens is people have to borrow money, and it's guaranteed. So I'm going to raise my price to $4, and then it's going to $5, and then it's going to $6. It's what the market will bear, but it's not really true because it's being subsidized, and these prices will go out of control. The universities see a cash cow coming, and they're going to jump on it.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask this, John. Switching subjects a little bit, because we're going to get to fentanyl in the show a little bit later and what's being done about that. Obviously, a very big issue. We're going to also talk a little bit about the immigration, obviously, what's going on in Martha's Vineyard and around the nation a little bit later.
We don't have a policy.
Exactly. But before I get to that.
Yeah, I did an episode on my YouTube channel about Martha's Vineyard. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, I saw that. And it was good. And by the way, folks, you can always see John on his channel, which is Cordisco's Corner. I do advise you to check it out. He has some good insight. But, John, did you know, and I'm showing it on the screen right now, did you know that Iran is, not only are they fighting against the United States in terms of trying to get the Iran nuclear deal back, and the United States is capitulating over and over again, but Iran just sent, according to the AP, did you see that just 4 days ago, 3 Iranian citizens were hacking the United States? They were cyber attacking the United States. And notice, even the AP doesn't want to say cyber hack, that this was a cyber attack against America by Iran. But that's what it was. And I don't think this isn't major news. Meanwhile, the United States is trying to say, but we want the Iran nuclear deal because it's going to make the world safe. Iran is going to work with us. Iran is attacking us.
Of course. We've always, the Democrats, especially the progressives, have always capitulated to their geopolitical enemies and real enemies in the world. They always have. I mean, look at Neville. It goes back, Neville Chamberlain with Hitler. I mean, how far are we going to go back with this? And it's consistent.
It's insane to me that we have.
It's just a mindset of progressives and liberals. It's just the way it is. Neville Chamberlain, and that was pre-World War II, all the way to today. Nothing has changed as far as their mindset goes. I consider it, frankly, mental illness.
It is a mental illness, but it's also insulting that, according to the AP 4 days ago, this is a continuation. We've seen this continuously. Russia has cyber attacked us. We're seeing some agents in Ukraine have cyber attacked us. We have Iran cyber attacking us continuously. but yet they're trying to tell us Joe Biden has everything under control. The world is stable.
Well,
That's not true.
I think the underlying mindset is this. The United States has been the most successful republic in the history of the world and still is, money-wise, socially, you name it, the whole list. We've checked all the boxes, and now they hate us. We're evil, we're monsters, and anything that will bring down the United States, I don't know if it's conscious on their part, subconscious on their part, nor do I care. I just know it's happening. And I think that's the fundamental flaw in their thinking is they hate the United States, period.
Right. It doesn't matter what your politics are. They don't care what your religion is or your gender or what pronouns you want to use. They hate America because we exist, period. Because we don't believe what they believe, and therefore they want to wipe us off the face of the earth. They've been saying that for 50 years.
Now, I would expect that from our geopolitical enemies and real enemies. What you don't expect it from is a large swath of the American public. That's the danger.
Well, we have a lot of students who've been taught from cradle to college that they're supposed to be progressive and socialism is great, and that the Iranians will love us if we just simply give in, if we just help them out, if we just give them the money so that they can increase global terror like they did in 2016.
Yeah, just
but
like
they don't.
Neville Chamberlain got off the plane and waved a Heil Hitler. Chancellor Hitler signed this. We have peace in our time. Yeah, okay, you moron.
Yeah, and it didn't happen. And let's remember that Iran just last year was attacking a children's hospital in Boston in that cyber attack. So this is not new. They absolutely believe Joe Biden, the Biden-Harris administration, Democrats in charge of Congress are weak. They have no international policy. They have no plan. And therefore, we are wide open for attack after attack. As the media says, don't pay attention to that. Don't even talk about that. If you do, we will try to suppress you. Instead, everything is good. Everything is working out just like it's supposed to.
What's the magician's favorite trick? It's deflection.
Distraction, deflection,
That's the magician's most powerful tool is making you look somewhere else instead of here.
This is incredible to me that they are getting away with this. And am I wrong? Is this something that you're seeing in the major news media? Am I missing it somewhere in the major news media that they're talking about Iran cyber attacking America?
I wonder if they're just plain evil in doing it or they're just useful idiots. It's hard to tell.
Well, they really think we are useful idiots. I mean, think about this.
No, I mean the media itself going along with this, I think are useful idiots for a higher power. I don't even think they realize that in a lot of cases what they're doing is useful idiots.
I think they're just trying to do it because they believe in the progress. We know there was a poll 3 months ago by Pew Research that came out and said 55% of the members of the media are not only left-leaning, they believe in the bias, in printing bias. We know 3 months ago, Newsweek has admitted that their writers make up stories and plagiarize stories. We've seen that in USA Today and NBC.
Oh, sure. You saw that when, what was that company? I forget what it was. It's supposed to be covering misinformation, was giving really popular TikTok content creators money to do anti-Trump ads. Yeah,
that was along with the same woman who was supposed to be head of the Disinformation Governance Board was responsible for that.
It's a propaganda tool, and sometimes propaganda works and sometimes it doesn't. But I think when propaganda stops working is when it hits the average person. What do they call that? Kitchen table issues.
Well, here's a kitchen table issue. Monkeypox cases are down. Remember, monkeypox was supposed to be the next epidemic. We were supposed to be terrified and we needed more and more vaccines. The news media, Wired magazine, are like, hey, monkeypox cases are falling. There's no one reason why. Maybe it's because of the vaccines that people are taking for monkeypox. No.
Actually, the vaccines have been around for a long time and they're tried and tested.
Yeah, but that's not the problem. You know what it is? Gay and bisexual men stopped or slowed down They're random sex with individuals without protection. That's the reality.
Well, here's the thing. They're screaming prejudice. We have a right, but yet they'll close down a school for a year and make your kid wear double masks and a football helmet and God knows what else. But we're not going to give up our rights for 2 weeks, but we're going to give up our children's rights for a year. And that's the reality of it. And people, I think it's slower than you and I would like. But I think slowly but surely people are going, what the F? And they're starting to catch on.
Well, I hope they are. And we'll see, not only in this election, but the next one. More importantly, how we see Congress move forward. If Republicans
it's happening in Europe. Eastern Europe now, eastern part of it, the former communist states, are all conservative type nationalists. And I don't mean in an evil way nationalists. I mean, look out for their own people first. It's starting to catch on. In Western Europe, starting to pick up a little bit. Even though England is a very liberal country, they're starting to get conservative members of parliament. The new prime minister, it's slowly, but it's not going as quickly as you and I would like.
Yes. I mean, we've seen Sweden. They just went and voted in a right-leaning government. We've seen in Chile, they rejected a progressive constitution. We're seeing the world say, hey, this is the wrong direction. This is the wrong thing to do.
Here's the thing. Countries like Sweden and all the EU countries, they're really vassals. They're really not their own independent governments because they fall under the jurisdiction of the European Union. Remember the huge to-do in England over Brexit? That was the hottest topic that there was besides immigration in England. People are slowly waking up, but here's this thing. How do they get out of this terrible deal? How are these European countries going, you know what? We've had enough. It's really hard to get out once you get in. It's like being in a bad marriage and you can't get a divorce. What do you do?
Well, part of what you do is you decide that you have to stop. You have to just stop it all.
And people, it's funny. It's the ironic twist of humans that we're the most adaptable species on the planet. We can damn near live anywhere. We can damn near eat anything. That's the secret of our success, but we hate change at the same time.
Yeah, and they want to see bugs. And they want to see bugs.
They'd rather have the horribleness and the devil they know than the unknown.
Yeah, it's crazy. But, I mean, I wanted to make sure that we are talking about some of these things on the show because no one else is talking about this stuff. No one is discussing the impact of these things. You know, mixing different vaccines. How is that going to impact you? Oh, well, the government made it better. That's why, you know, we've got news media that are saying, oh, well, monkeypox, it's because of the administration. No, it's because people took on reasonable sexual practices and made themselves less at risk. That's the number one thing. And they don't want to tell us that. They don't want to tell us that our enemies are attacking us as we're trying to say they're great guys. They're not talking about the fact that the policies are actually increasing inflation and making our lives more difficult, and that's negatively impacting everyone in the world.
I mean, I use the Neville Chamberlain example again. The Germany's massing troops on the Polish border. They're invading countries in northern Africa. They're undermining everything in the Mediterranean and the Atlantic. But he has a piece of paper saying, we have peace in our time. You morons.
Yeah.
You can see what they're doing. Well, I mean, their goals are extremely clear and precise.
You know what terrifies me, though? And I'm going to let other people speak in just a little bit.
Sure.
But I did you see the poll that came out from Trafalgar Group? The poll about Biden? That 58.7% of voters said that Joe Biden is dividing the country in his time as president. That this uniter, the guy who promised in 2019, 2020, that he was going to bring everyone together, the same guy who in 2021 said that if you're unvaccinated, you are a problem and you are evil.
You are a threat to society.
That's what he said about the unvaccinated, and now is saying that if you believe in America first, if you believe in making your country great, that you are an extremist and a problem for the world. that somehow the news media seems to be amazed that 58% of Americans, this is including Democrats, think that he is dividing this nation. But this is
that's the only tactic they have left. They have to try to isolate and demonize a certain percent of our population, and that's to see as their only path to having any success in the midterms and any success in 2024. It's been tried and true for years. I mean, I'll bring up Germany again, taking a certain part of the poor population, dehumanize them to a certain extent, always leads to disaster. But that's the only path they have left because they have no ideas. They have their basic premise of how they see the world is so extremely flawed that there's nowhere else to go.
Well, surprisingly, 31% of independents believe that everything that Joe Biden said is absolutely acceptable, that it's perfectly fine to say.
I wonder on those polls when they mention Biden, do you approve, disapprove, that kind of thing. I'm wondering if it's a psychological thing saying if we say that Joe Biden's doing a horrible job and his policies are destroying the country, that makes us pro-Trump automatically. I wonder psychologically if that happens. If maybe the numbers are actually lower if you take the Trump part out of the equation.
I'm not sure. I don't know how they're wording it, but we've seen everything has been worded to try and pander to different voters.
Oh, yeah. I mean, lots of polls are like that. I mean, I remember local polls when I ran a local office. It's how you word it. And so if you're against Joe Biden, they make it so you're pro-Trump and pro-MAGA. Well, not necessarily, but that's the psychological thing is, well, I don't like Trump, so I have to like Biden. It's like two football teams in the Super Bowl. If you don't like one, you got to like the other.
Yeah, well, it's like John Fetterman in Pennsylvania. John Fetterman, who's now John Fetterwoman, pandering to women's votes. You know, he comes out and it's like, oh, well, see, I'm in favor of late-term abortion. I'm in favor of killing babies because if you're in favor of abortion, that is what it is. And it was
rounds of applause.
Rounds of applause as he goes, I'm John Fetterwoman, identity politics, transsexuality, and killing babies. He's all in favor of all that.
These monstrous policies that are destroying tens of thousands of lives and millions of unborn are thunderous applause. Now, Mike, we weren't alive back then, but what does that sound like to you? Does that sound like something from history that you might be familiar with?
Yeah, just a bit.
No names mentioned, of course, because this is YouTube and we want the algorithm to go off the cliff.
Sadly.
This sounds very familiar. History doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes.
Absolutely. This is absolutely rhyming. This is absolutely pandering. This is absolutely the bottom of the barrel in terms of politics. You're doing nothing. He's not achieving anything. He's just being dishonest for the sake of getting a vote. And hiding behind the fact that he is literally, and I don't mean this as an insult, he is literally mentally disabled. He has a stroke. He cannot speak properly at speeches.
Well, he was mentally disabled before the stroke. I mean, he's one of those. I mean, I'd give to a fund to buy this guy's suit so he wear a tie at least once. Well, I mean, show a little class.
Well, you think he definitely can afford it because he's not just a working blue-collar guy.
No, his parents are multi-gazillionaires. He's in a trust fund baby since he's been born.
Yeah, and now he's pandering to people saying, hey, no.
He was mayor of a small town that it was an old steel town. He drove that into the ground. He went to one meeting the entire time he was mayor. Tucker Carlson did a whole piece on him that was really fascinating.
I just find it interesting how people can't look at that and say, hey, that is so obviously pandering for votes and insulting to the public, insulting to women and feminists, because he's not actually trying to help them. He's just trying to buy their votes on the cheap.
I think that it is. And I think these polls we just talked about and guys like Fetterman, and we see that, wow, how can they get so much of a high approval rating? They're crazy. The fact of the matter is, I think a lot of these polls, the people aren't answering, we'll say, when I say correctly, I mean what they really think. I think people are starting to wake up. But when they do get a poll, they skew their view a little bit. I don't want to seem like I'm a right-winger, even though I agree with a lot of their policies. So I'll just kind of lie or stretch the truth. And I think these polls are incredibly flawed, and we're going to find out in November. Same with the polls against Trump and Clinton. They're incredibly flawed. But the problem is these huge polling companies that spend hundreds of millions of dollars, what's the word that they use? The people that they call so they get a fair. It's so skewed that they haven't corrected that yet. And I think that's still going on.
Yeah, it's insane.
I think the numbers are a lot more, what I'll say, in our favor than you think.
Probably.
We only need 5%. Remember that. You don't need to win 100% of the vote. You only need to win 51 of it.
That's true. That's very true.
So let the other 49 bask in their misery. That's their choice. And but the real question, I think, is going to be, by my prediction, by the way, so I get this on the record, 31 net seats in the House, and Republicans get 53 seats in the Senate. That's my prediction. But here's the question. When it is taken over by the Republicans, is there going to be enough, what I'll call new Republicans, to make a difference? Or is the old Lindsey Graham neocons going to have control of it? That's the real question that we have to ask.
That's a good question.
And which one is going to prevail? So there's a civil war going on in the Democrat Party, and the progressives have won that war. There's a civil war going on in the Republican Party, and we're going to have to see which side is going to win that war, and that will determine how the future of the country goes.
It will be interesting to see what's going to happen next.
Yeah, stay tuned and get your popcorn ready to go.
Yeah, we are in that time period. All right. Let me open this up for other people to come in.
Yeah. I don't want to occupy it all, but I just want to throw and give my 2 cents that I've always said this. For the next 3 or 4 years, I'm incredibly pessimistic. But for the next 5 to 10, I'm incredibly optimistic. We're just going to have to bite the bullet and pay the price for allowing these people to get in power and controlling all our media and universities and slowly taking. It's going to take time to do that. So don't be discouraged. You get tired mentally and physically. Remember, we are winning. Don't give up.
That's a good way to think of that.
Okay. Well, take care and have a good day.
Absolutely. I look forward to seeing your comments as we go on.
Oh, I'll have some smart aleck remark. Don't worry.
All right, John.
Okay. Take care.
You too. And folks, so that was John Cordisco. He has Cordisco's Corner, another channel on YouTube. I definitely say check out some of his content as well. I always enjoy having him on the program. But just like John, you too can call in. You see the number scrolling above. So you can reach us now not only on YouTube, Facebook, the social media, but you can call into 607-242-1582. And I want, for those who disagree, your voice is welcome on this program. If you think that I am wrong, if you think that John is wrong, if you think any of the comments are wrong, that we have misunderstood the situation, that we're not understanding the nuance of these articles and the events that are happening around us, you're more than welcome to call in. Be respectful. Don't tell me I'm old. Don't tell me I'm ugly. Don't call me a racist. And just make your case. We are happy to hear that. And we always are open to your voices on this channel. It's just that simple. We just generally don't hear it. But we always want to be open, and we invite you to bring in your thoughts. But if you agree or you have anything you want to say, this is a show with you, your voice. You can call in and talk about any issue that you think needs to be addressed more, whether it's the economy, international policy, things that are happening in the United Kingdom, Sweden, anywhere around the world. We're always happy to hear that. Matter of fact, let me also throw in real quick that if you find any of this to be entertaining, informative, educational, useful, please like, share, and most of all, subscribe. That is critical. We're very close to 1,000 subscribers. The algorithm changes at that number. All we're asking is that you like, share, and subscribe. Most of all, subscribe so that we can reach more and more people to hear what they have to say, because the news media isn't going to do it. Your politicians don't care. Like John Fetterman, they just don't care. Matter of fact, I was about to just release this. And by the way, does anyone think that John Fetterman is anything but pandering? I mean, when we look at him do this, I'm John Fetter woman. That is such an obvious, desperate display of trying to get votes. And, you know, as I was saying with John, we know for a fact that he is mentally disabled. That's not an insult on him. It is a fact, a medical fact that has been reported by the news media. He had a stroke. He has admitted himself in speeches that he has difficulty speaking and conveying his thoughts. How is he supposed to function in our Congress, in our government, if he cannot convey the wishes of his constituents, assuming that he's even trying to do that? How is he supposed to convey that? And yet he's in this race, and it's supposed to be a tight race. I don't understand it. People are going to elect someone who cannot speak, who cannot communicate, if he is actually listening to the public and if he is actually listening to his constituents, which is in question, and not just a yes man for his party. How is he supposed to convey anything that they tell him if he cannot speak? Why would we want that in our elected office? It doesn't make sense. And I think it's pandering. And to cover that up, to hide from that, he's instead saying, hey, call me John Fetterwoman. Why? I don't care if you're a man or a woman. If you can't communicate, it doesn't matter. Your gender doesn't matter. If you cannot say, my constituents believe X, it doesn't matter if you're calling yourself a male, a female, gay, straight. I don't care. You can call yourself a toaster for all I care. You can't do the job. Why is this even a race? Because he's pandering? Because of intersectional politics? It makes no sense. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you think I'm wrong. But I don't understand this. It doesn't make sense to me. It's kind of like what we're seeing out in Illinois. I don't know if a lot of people notice this. In Illinois, where the people are saying that they want more police, that they need to stop crime, they need more law enforcement, they need more people working to help lower crime, because defunding the police has failed. It is categorically, absolutely a failed experiment. There is no question on that. We have seen it fail in the United States and around the world. Ask people in the United Kingdom how well it's going to have social workers working instead as constables, as police officers. They'll tell you it failed. And in the United States, we see this, as reported on September 9th. I don't think a lot of people noticed this, that Illinois in January of 2023 will be releasing hundreds of criminals. They will be releasing people who are on trial and charged with second-degree murder, aggravated battery, arson. These are the people. 400 criminal defendants are going to be released into the community. And this is a problem. This is coming from the Winnebago County State Attorney, Jay Hanley. In fact, we know that according to the Safety, Accountability, Fairness, Equity Today Act, or the SAFE-T Act, they are going to be releasing people not just with second-degree murder, aggravated battery, arson. There is no bail. They get released. But also drug-induced homicide, kidnapping, burglary, robbery, intimidation, aggravated DUI, aggravated fleeing and eluding police, drug offenses, and threatening public officials. This is being reported by WICS. This is being reported by the local news stations, WTVO. This is coming from the news media itself. And this is what Democrats are telling you that you need to vote for. You need to vote to release violent criminals without bail back into your community. This is what they think is going to get them votes, because social justice, racial justice. And we will again say on this program, if you have to put a modifier in front of the word justice, you're not talking about justice. You're talking about something completely different. Maybe you're talking about equity, but equity isn't justice, and it isn't fair, and it isn't equal. It is an imbalance in the system. It is you're prioritizing a political agenda and not increasing safety. You are not making people better off. And we are seeing more and more people, as they notice this, they're saying, this is insane, that this is not going to help anyone. Just like we saw that when they decided to defund the police, that social experiment completely failed. We have seen in New York State, as an example, that we have seen criminals be released same day. They get bank robbers, have been arrested, turned around, and released within an hour. That same bank robber went back and committed the same bank robbery. We've seen this. We have seen in New York State that individuals that have been arrested for assault have turned around, been released within an hour, 2 hours of their arrest, and they have gone back and threatened the very victims that they got arrested for in the first place so that they won't get charged. This is how you victimize a society with social experiments that have already failed and have endangered people's lives. And we hear Democrats saying they need to do this around the nation. They need this Safety Act. They need this release of criminals around the nation. By the way, one of the people who actually supports this is, in fact, John Fetterman, who believes that people who have been convicted and sentenced to life in prison for committing murder, multiple murders, that they have to be released, that they have to be sent out of jail, that you have to let them back out, just like we see in Illinois. You have to release these violent criminals, these violent felons back into the public so that they can commit more crime and more violence against the public, and you will have less police to protect you. You will have less ability, because remember, they're also trying to get rid of the Second Amendment. They are trying to criminalize you for exercising your Second Amendment rights. It was in Illinois, as we covered on this program 3 weeks ago, that Illinois came out and they added 300 people to the red flag list of individuals who had their property taken away from them, that had their rights taken away from them, had their children taken away from them. And because of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act and Joe Biden, they got paid for commoditizing the red flag laws. Meanwhile, the public is not safer. Criminals are not being affected. You are being helped. You're just as in danger as you were before, but it sounds nice. I mean, it sounds fair, doesn't it? I mean, it sounds really fair that when someone says, well, it's unfair, we need to have cashless bail. We need to release these criminals because they can't afford, and this is the part I love in this, that they can't afford to pay for bail. They're a criminal. They were arrested committing a crime. If they cannot afford the bail, they shouldn't have done the crime. Is that too hard of a concept to understand? Is that too much? User has been banned mentions, did you see the video of kids on the top of New York City trains for TikToks? No, I haven't. And, again, kids endangering themselves for stupid reasons. It's insane to me. It is crazy that we are seeing these things happen. And it is a consequence of these insane actions that are adding up to really harm our nation. That's why we're seeing in California, Governor Newsom is signing social media bills to increase the amount of censorship so that you can't tell people that John Fetterwoman is pandering to women and that he wants to release convicted felons, criminals who have committed murder, and release them into your community. They want to increase in California. They want more censorship so that you can't talk about illegal immigration, that you can't tell people about the problems that government is doing, that they don't want you to tell people, as as is the case, and I think most people have missed this. This was from Friday. A Delaware judge, has stated that vote by mail is unconstitutional. This is from the Associated Press. Okay? In Delaware, a Delaware judge ruled on Wednesday, it was Wednesday, that vote by mail laws enacted are unconstitutional and cannot be used in the November elections because it violates our Constitution. It is unjust. That's what the judges said. So when the censors of Facebook and YouTube, Google, and the various governments, like in California, when they want to censor this, remember, I'm speaking about what the news, the Associated Press, has already reported about a court case that has already been found. This is a trial. This is a result. This is public information. But they want to impose censorship, not just in California, but we see this coming from the Biden-Harris administration. We're hearing this from Democrats in the Senate, that they want to change Section 230 to increase the amount of censorship, to add the government deciding what you can and cannot say. This is worse than C-16 in Canada that Jordan Peterson first spoke about, saying this is controlling the way people think and the way people speak. This is exactly what we are seeing in California. This is exactly what we're seeing coming out of Democrats and Congress. This is terrifying. Hey, Mike Bowie, it's good to see that you're here with us as well. It's so damaging. And we're seeing so many violations of our rights and our privileges. Let's talk about fentanyl as an example. Hang on a second. So let's talk about fentanyl. We know, it is a fact, and it has been reported on this program and many news media, that we are at record deaths due to overdoses. We know that fentanyl is a leading cause of these overdose deaths. We know that fentanyl, which is being shipped from China illegally through our southern border, which is wide open, and we'll get to that, into our nation, it is being infused in every drug you can name. Every illicit, illegal drug is being laced with fentanyl because it's a better high, I guess. I don't know. But we're seeing this drug being, and it only takes 2 milliliters of, and this, I mean, we're talking less than what you could see on a penny. This is minuscule amounts of fentanyl that would kill the average human being. This is a problem. This is a danger to the American people, to people everywhere. It is deadly. And yet, we are seeing that the left wants this, that they are upset. They are angry. Okay? We are seeing this. This is a bill that Marco Rubio, Tony Gonzalez are entering. It is the felony for murder, felony murder for deadly fentanyl distribution. It is one of the shortest bills I have ever seen. And I agree, users have been banned. This is a chemical weapon. And it is a very simple bill. If you are distributing, if you are dealing fentanyl, it is a child abuse, it is a murder in the first degree, and it should be punished by death or by life imprisonment. Period. If you're distributing this controlled substance, fentanyl, involving 2 grams or more, then you have committed a life-threatening crime. It is murder in the first degree and should be punished by death or imprisonment. And do you know that at this time, we are seeing people across this nation that are saying that's unfair, it's unconstitutional, that it is unreasonable, that it is bad, that you're punishing addicts? And part of my answer is yes, we are. And we should. We should, because It is a fact that fentanyl is killing Americans in the tens of thousands, in the 100,000 range. We are losing Americans at a rate we have never seen before. Overdose deaths are at all-time highs, and they are not reducing. Fentanyl is being shipped into our nation by the ton through our southern border that is wide open, being carried across by drug mules, by illegal aliens, that the only way they're being allowed by drug cartels to come into our nation is to carry these drugs with them. We know that. That is a fact. It's not a question. It's not an opinion. It's not a guess. It's not conjecture. This is factual. We know this. It has been reported by the Customs Border Patrol. We have seen this in arrest after arrest. This is not a question. We know that fentanyl is killing Americans. We have the reports from the CDC. It is a fact. It's not a question. We know that the number has increased since 2020. We know that. It is a fact. It is not a question. Since the lockdowns, and especially since 2021, when we released our border and opened the floodgates and invited illegal aliens into our nation, we have seen China and the drug cartels take advantage of that and use that as an opportunity to flood our nation with fentanyl and kill tens and tens of thousands of Americans. That's a fact. So to say to me, well, it's unfair, please explain how. Because I will tell you right off the bat, it doesn't violate the Eighth Amendment. Now, I'm going to get to the comments in just a moment. But I can tell you, the Eighth Amendment says excessive bail shall not be required. By the way, we were just talking about bail. They don't even want bail. They want to eliminate, effectively, they're trying to eliminate the Eighth Amendment. No bail. So it's not even excessive, it's none. Because any bail is excessive. Democrats are trying to destroy our amendments. They're trying to destroy our Constitution. But in reference to fentanyl, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. It is not cruel or unusual to say that you are dealing to our children, to teenagers and those in their 20s, adults, that you are dealing death, that you are providing them with fentanyl, which does and will kill these individuals en masse in the tens of thousands. It is not unreasonable to say that this is murder, as the bill from Marco Rubio clearly states. So it's not unreasonable punishment to say you're going to get the death penalty for giving someone a drug that will kill them, that will addict them and will kill them. So you're either destroying their lives directly, which affects our community, or it's killing them outright. And even if you have Narcan to try and bring this person back to counteract the overdose, how much money does that Narcan cost, which is a cost to the community? How the resources that it takes, either paramedics or fire departments or police departments that have to come and save this person. And we are seeing that they're reporting they have to go back and save the same person over and over and over again because of their addiction. How much money is that costing? How much time is that taking? How many crimes could be otherwise resolved if the police weren't trying to resuscitate that same addict over and over and over again? It's an important question. It's a critical question, I think. And yet, we're being told by over and over again by many individuals that on the left, particularly, that this is a good thing, that this is important, that we need to do this to help them. And I think they're wrong. And I want to point to, there's a comment here. And if you'll bear with me, I want to find this comment that we received on this program. Where is it? You know, of course, I can't find it when I'm looking for it. There it is. And this came up pretty specifically. Now, I do not want anyone to attack this individual. Okay? He made a comment on this channel. He shared his point of view, and we appreciate that. But we had an individual who commented when we said that fentanyl is killing Americans, and that fentanyl, that the bill by Marco Rubio and Tony Gonzalez to try and protect Americans, because the Biden-Harris administration has no plan to do so. They have wide open borders. They are allowing these drugs into this nation at a rate we have never seen before, because they do not want to admonish China for creating the fentanyl and sending it, shipping it into America at record levels. Because they have no plan, we're bad guys for talking about it. And we had this one gentleman who came up and he said, well, it's because he wants to protect the fentanyl. That it's okay to have fentanyl, essentially, in America because his dad is an addict. And his dad suffers because of his opioid addiction, which then led him to fentanyl. And it would be cruel and unusual to stop the fentanyl from coming into America because his dad needs it for his addiction. Now, I want to let you know, I understand. I sympathize that he loves his dad. And we don't think that's a bad thing. And I know that there's other people who've responded as well, and they think that his dad, they love his dad too. They can appreciate how addiction is difficult. And they think that we should allow fentanyl to come into America because addicts can't help themselves. Let me be very clear. While we can empathize with your love for your parent or a love for an addict, I understand that. I can appreciate that. And at the same time, they are not being helped by continuing to allow them to use drugs. These safe needle injections, the $30 million worth of crack pipes distributed by the Biden-Harris administration to help people be able to have safe use of crack. That's not helping anyone. That is not helping a single addict. As we said in the comments, and as we have said in other videos, we want to be very clear here. The best way to help the addict is to stop the addiction, to remove the drug and let them go through their cleansing to end this. We're not helping them by saying, I feel bad for the addict. I do feel bad for them. That doesn't mean it's not a crime to continue to give them that addiction, to feed that addiction. That is still criminal. It is not in their best interest to say, well, fentanyl will eventually kill them, so let's give them more access to fentanyl. That's not helping them. That's not a benefit. You love your dad because he's an addict? I understand that. Even though, let me correct that. You love your dad even though he is an addict. I understand that. I can appreciate that. You're not going to help him by allowing him to continue to take fentanyl that will probably kill him. You're sad that he's an addict. You'll be even more sad if your father dies. It's a sad thing to lose a parent. I understand. It is devastating. Would I love to have my father back? Absolutely. But that's not possible. Now, my dad didn't die because of addiction. He died because of a stroke, a car accident, Agent Orange. Okay. But it's still the loss of a parent. I can appreciate you want to keep your parents and you want them to function as well as they can. But letting them function as an addict isn't bringing them back. You're just, in my opinion, that's a torture to them. I don't know. Jan, don't worry. We're happy to have you here as long as you can be. Thank you for spending time with us. I want to get back to some of the comments that were here. Mike Bowie says, doesn't fentanyl originate in China? It is shipped from China. It is made en masse by tons in China. And it is being sent from China to the United States. So yes, Mike, it is basically originating. It can be made anywhere in the world. But China is the number one source of fentanyl in the world at this time. Users been banned is said. user has been banned says that fentanyl is a chemical weapon. Now, let me ask everyone who's watching this. Am I wrong? Is Marco Rubio wrong? I know that no one in the news media is showing you the bill so that you can read it for yourself. But the link will be in the description at the end of the show. I am showing you, this is what the bill says. It is about distribution. So if someone wants to say, as we have heard people argue, well, the legal medical use of fentanyl is perfectly fine. I'm not questioning if a doctor is prescribing fentanyl for whatever reason, or it's used as part of an operation. I'm not questioning that. But if you're a drug dealer and you are lacing your drugs with fentanyl, if you are selling fentanyl to the public, then you are committing an act of murder. This is attempted murder because people die from the shit on a regular basis. And I know the news media does not want you to look at the bill, to consider it, or to speak about it, they want you to say, well, it's not compassionate. What's compassionate? Going to a funeral? Is that the kind of compassion that Democrats and progressives want us to have? And I know many of my friends who are libertarians are going to say, Mike, you're not being fair. Because, and this is the libertarian argument, I want to address it. And I know many of my libertarian friends, including Larry Sharp, a good friend of mine, someone who I love, I've talked to him for over 7 years, and they will say, well, yes, you should be able to use any drug because it only affects you. Let me correct that. That is a lie. That is not true. Drug addiction always affects someone else. It affects your community. It eventually affects your state and our nation. That is a fact. 100,000, 120,000 people dying in a year in our nation because of the overdoses is an impact on America. That's a loss of productivity. That is impact to families and friends. That's the increase of depression that causes. It is an impact in the community and the taxes that are being paid. There are a lot of levels of how every single drug dealer affects every dealer and every addict affects every single person. The addicts that go out and commit crimes so that they can afford their drugs, so that they can be an addict. There are multiple levels. The crimes of getting those drugs into our nation across our border using illegal immigrants, illegal aliens on a regular basis. How many levels this affects? This affects the local, the state, and the federal level. It is not an individual. If it were only one person, you know what? You could possibly make that argument that, hey, it's your life. It's only you. You're affecting you. That's fine. You can make that argument. And I know many libertarians want to. But the fact is, it isn't one individual. That illegal drug is coming into our nation through a crime. Illegal aliens entering the nation, illegal immigration. That is a federal crime. So right there, you've already affected the nation. You've increased criminality. It is being sold and used by illegal organizations, drug cartels, and gangs. And that creates the competition between those drug gangs, those drug cartels, are fights. They have shootouts on a regular basis. Look at Illinois. Look at Baltimore. Look at Detroit. They have shootouts on a regular basis involving innocent individuals on a regular basis. That's another crime. Those addicts, some of them, will go out and they will harm other individuals by stealing their property, mugging individuals, attacking human beings, whether because they're on the drug or to get the drug. That is affecting other individuals in the community and state level, multiple ways. So to say, as a libertarian, and I've heard the argument, or as a progressive, well, this is only one individual, that's a lie. You're saying that to make yourself feel good about allowing an addict to exist. You're enabling that addict because it's not a true argument. It's a feel-good argument. And all you're doing is hurting that individual, that community, that state, and this nation. In fact, many nations. Because Look at the drug wars that go on in Mexico, in South America, because of these illegal drugs. So you're affecting many nations. This is an international problem. So that's not it. That's not a fair answer. Am I being unfair? I see that Rindy, and hello, Rindy. It's good to have you with us. But I want to ask, am I being unfair about this? Is this an unfair outlook? Better yet, is it an unconstitutional outlook? See, life isn't fair. It isn't fair that someone became an addict. For whatever reason, they became an addict. I understand. That's not fair. But the law isn't about what's going to make you feel good. It's about what's best for the community, what's best for the society. It isn't in our best interest to have more and more people addicted, to have them addicted for longer and longer periods of time. It increases crime. It increases violence. It decreases the amount of productivity in our nation. It weakens our society. Is that so difficult to understand? Because progressives seem to think that it is. They don't get it. And they are more than happy to tell us that we're the bad guys for doing it. I had a great conversation about this, by the way. And I want to bring this up for you guys. I had a great conversation about this. And I would advise anyone and everyone to check this out. I had a conversation every Friday. I go on to a roundtable with the Liberty First Foundation. That's at 9 p.m. And I was speaking with Mike Marshall, a friend of mine, an individual who is a wonderful constitutional scholar. And we talked about, is this constitutional? And that's a great question. Because one of the first things about answering this is, do we have the right to enact laws that affect the drug dealers, which will then affect our communities? Does Congress have that right? And the answer is yes. You may be surprised. It is constitutional. It is correct that when we're talking about illegal drugs, does the government even have a right to control that? Yes, they do. You'd be surprised. Article 1, Section 8. And to go into more of that, I would advise you check out the excerpt, or more importantly, go to the Liberty First Foundation site on YouTube and listen to the entire conversation between me and Mike Marshall going over the legality and the obligations of government to addicts. Where does the government actually have a responsibility to those people who are addicted? Because there is a government response, but it's not the one that you're being told about. Let me see. User has been banned says, again, no user will have 2 grams of that stuff unless it's 99% Tylenol or something. I'm not saying that it's a perfect bill, but I will say it's a starting ground. It is somewhere to start, and I think it's important. And I think we need to talk about this, that we really need to have this as part of our discussion. It's not popular. It's not happy, but it's important. At the time that we have so many Democrats, so many progressives saying, no, you can't talk about this. No, you're being unfair. They're saying racial justice, social justice, that this isn't just for the addict. You know what? You're enabling. We need to call it out for what it is and say, your answer, and we've gone through this. We've seen what happens when you buy 30 million crack pipes. You have 30 million crack users that continue to use crack. And all you did is take my tax dollars, your tax dollars, to buy crack pipes. You didn't stop crack. You didn't stop crack addiction. When we've seen that they're buying needles and distributing in safe spaces, like in the southern tier of New York, SUNY and Broome County. County Executive Jason Garnar believes and has created a safe zone with safe needles so that they're providing needles for the public in New York State. Our tax dollars are going to providing zones, places where addicts can shoot up clean. Guess what? That isn't stopping the number of people using heroin. That's not stopping the number of people who are using heroin. It's not decreasing the number of cases of Narcan being used to try and save people from overdoses. It's not reducing the number of overdoses in our state, in our county. It isn't helping anyone. That compassion, which I believe is absolutely real, I do not question anyone that says that they have compassion and empathy. I don't doubt it. It is useless. It is not effective. It is inefficient. All it does is increase the number of people who are addicts and extends the amount of time that they are addicted to this drug, and it increases the amount of violence and crime and sadness in our communities. Maybe people think I'm wrong. I don't know. John Kudisco says, criticizing countries that produce fentanyl is racist, pure and simple. And therefore, that would make me a white nationalist, because that's what the left would say. I'm criticizing China. Oh my God, how can you speak out about China? Of course I can, because China's creating the fentanyl that they're shipping into America. How can I criticize Mexico and the drug cartels for entering America, crossing our borders illegally, and distributing fentanyl across this nation? Of course I can. But the left is going to try and use, you're a racist, you're ist and a phobe. How dare you make these statements? How can I not? As someone who loves America and loves these individuals, how can I not make a comment? And YouTube is cutting out chat comments. Fantastic. And they're reducing and making it difficult for people to see this conversation. That tells you something right there. That they do not want this conversation. And again, I'm asking people, if you think I'm wrong, tell me why. I think I've laid out the case in terms of what the libertarian point of view and the progressive point of view. I think I've made it clear. And I'm pointing out the law, and I've shown you the law and exactly who the law affects and how it will affect them. Am I wrong? They don't want you to have the conversation. That terrifies me. Why can't we have this conversation, since it is of national security, it is of national interest? And yet the social media overlords would say, you can't say that. Why not? How could I not? User has been banned says, I wonder what it makes everyone else. If I'm a racist for saying these things, what does it make everyone else for saying it? It's terrifying to me. You know, it's difficult, folks. It is difficult. And I don't want someone to think that I'm just picking on these people willy-nilly because I'm heartless or something. I'm not. I mean, I do have compassion. I understand. I've had family members who've been addicted to drugs. And I've seen the struggle that they've had to go through with crack in particular to try and deal with that addiction over decades of their life. I've seen the impact on my family directly. I've grown up and I've watched people I went to high school with, who I went to kindergarten with, that have died either because they sell the drugs or because they are addicted to the drugs. And I've seen them die from overdoses on a regular basis. Throughout my high school, we lost what? I don't know, a fifth of the people that when I went to high school with died because of drugs, because of the overdoses, because of crack. I've lived through that in the 90s. I've lived through that in the 80s. I understand this situation. It has personally affected my family, me, my community, my friends and neighbors. I've seen this. So to tell me that I don't understand and I don't have compassion, you don't understand me. And you're misrepresenting what I'm saying. I've seen it. I've lived through this for decades. I've seen the consequences for decades. And maybe that makes it a little too personal. Maybe you're saying, well, Mike, that's anecdotal. Well, guess what? I'm also showing you the national figures. I'm showing you numbers and the multiple ways it is affecting our nation and every community in our nation, including the new community that I am in. And the one thing that they cannot point to, the people who are saying, well, fentanyl shouldn't be a capital offense, they can't point to any positive impact other than, well, it's good for drug addicts. And that makes us feel good. That they feel good about it. That's the best argument. If that is the best argument that the left, the progressives, can make, then that's no argument at all. Not in my opinion. Your feelings about what will be codependent and enabling to an addict does not equal anything positive. You get to feel good at night saying, I did something. They're able to use drugs more safely. The problem isn't whether or not they're using the drugs safely. The problem is they're using the drugs. Should be that simple. User has been banned says the 80s were nuts. Well, yes, they were. And crack was nuts. And I watched crack run through my community in the Bronx. I watched it affect families after family after family, friend after friend, people I grew up with and people I barely knew. I watched it affect every one of our neighborhoods, walking through the streets. It's one of the reasons why I've had one of the first times that someone ever pulled a gun on me was because they were a crack addict and they were trying to make a point. And I've seen that happen in the Bronx. I've seen that happen in California, in LA. I have watched that happen across this country. Yeah, John mentions that in the 70s, heroin was a plague, and he had to help friends detox. And that's what we need to do now. We have to help people detox. This isn't a fun subject. It isn't a feel-good subject. I know that. It is not popular, but it is important. It is critical. And we need to have this conversation because if we don't have this conversation today, tens of thousands of Americans will die. Let me say it again. Tens of thousands of Americans will die if we do not have this conversation, if we do not take positive, effective action. And the Democrats and the progressives are not taking that action. They are avoiding this. They are saying, we want to feel good even as people die. Their feel good is killing people. Progressives may not like that. Democrats may not like that. But I don't care if you like it. That's the reality. And we have hundreds of thousands of graves to point to prove it. Your feelings don't equal those graves. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like this is talking to a wall, that this is because of the fact that we don't have 1,000 subscribers, because the algorithm is fighting against us, because we are seeing, as I have shown you before, because every single comment that we are making, that YouTube, that Facebook, that the social media giants, they're fighting against us on these things. They're trying to hide this from you because they do not want you to see this. You know, it makes us feel like, as I see time and time again, over and over again, that they are trying to silence people's voices. I want you to see this. When I say that they're trying to silence, this is how many times over and over again that we have seen that Facebook has gone out of its way to try and silence our voice, to hide the information from the public. They do not want you to have that conversation. 21 times since March that they are hiding this, because they don't want you to speak about this. They don't want you to see this. They do not want you to think. They want you to obey, and they want you to just do what they say. Mike Bowie says, maybe the Democrats are behind the fentanyl surge by purposefully flooding the border. Well, let me say this. I don't think they're smart enough to do that. Quite honestly, I don't think the Biden-Harris administration are smart enough to understand the consequences of what they are doing. I don't think that Kamala Harris cares. In fact, I am absolutely sure that Kamala Harris does not care about the southern border at all. She has been in charge. She has been the czar, the point person, the vice president, tackling illegal immigration and therefore drugs entering the United States since March of 2021. She's actually done something about it when she got embarrassed in June of 2021 because President Trump went to the border, and so that forced her to actually do something. She's been at one meeting in a year and a half, and she will not speak about this in front of the American public. She doesn't care. You can't tell me that's compassion. That she went out and had one meeting. She took one trip in 18 months. As the numbers have increased, as the people who have died, as the number of illegal immigrants in this nation has continued to skyrocket, she had one meeting. She made one trip. She had one conversation a year ago and will not speak about the subject since that time. And the news media won't ask her. They don't ask her constantly. What are you doing about the southern border? When was the last time you were at the southern border? When was the last time you were trying to deal with illegal immigration, which is funneling illegal drugs into our nation that is killing American citizens? This is a direct one-to-one logic. This is the chain of events. The southern border is open. Illegal drugs are coming across that southern border. Americans are dying. Therefore, Kamala Harris, by not addressing the southern border, is killing Americans. Am I not being logical? And John mentions he lost a close family member because of drugs, and carrying his coffin was traumatic. You know, it was traumatic for my family when we had to deal with drug use in the extended family. It had an impact on children, on my family, my friends. I've seen so many of my friends in high school die, and we had to go to funeral after funeral. Today, and look at any community across America, how many high school students have had to bury their friends because of heroin, because of fentanyl, because of these illicit drugs? And to tell me that it's not compassionate to stop, to punish these drug dealers and to look at this as murder, you know what? Then go to another funeral and tell me how much compassion, tell me where your compassion led you. By allowing those drugs, they'll allow that drug addiction, and you're now at another funeral of an 18, 20, 25-year-old kid. Tell me, how much compassion is that? User has been banned mentions. The left always brings up Portugal for the drug issue. What's interesting about that is that the fact that even alcohol is different in Europe, and the way people act and consume are different. I understand. But here's the thing. Easily, I have to say this very carefully, I don't care about Portugal or Italy, the United Kingdom, France, how they deal with drugs and alcohol and consumption. That's not America. It's not my concern. It's not my worry. The left and progressives can point to New Amsterdam all they want. I could care less. That's not an American city. That's not an American nation. I don't care. How they deal with it and how they're dealing with the death of children, that's on them. In America, where I live, where my family is growing up, where my nieces and nephews have to deal with this stuff, and the next generation after that, you know what? That is my concern. So they can say, oh, well, you know, Italy and Portugal and Europe, they're not having a problem. They're not America. They don't have the same immigration issue. They don't have China funneling fentanyl into their nation. China isn't trying to give overdoses to the United Kingdom or to France. They're not trying to destabilize Greece. They could care less. Those aren't the world powers they're competing against. The United States is. And China knows specifically in their history as they dealt with the opium overdoses and what happens when you have compassion. What happens when you have compassion for people addicted to opioids? Ask China. 1 in 5 people in China, all of China, were addicted to opium. Their answer was that they killed every single opium dealer and they killed every single opium addict. And they put it on national TV for years, for a decade. You saw town square killings over and over again so that they impressed upon their people the answer to opioid addiction, to selling opium in China, was death. That's what China did about it. And they know that if you just have empty compassion and allow these addicts to continue to be addicted and to allow more and more of your country to become addicted because you feel bad, they know that that destabilizes your nation. And the only result at that point, when it becomes 1 in 20 or more people in your country are addicted, the only answer that China's seen and the only answer that we've seen around the world is mass murders. Let's not get there. I don't want to be there. I don't want to have to live through and to reenact what China did. I don't think China's a great lesson. I think you can do better. How about this? Stop the fentanyl before it gets to the kids. How about we shut down our southern border? How about we punish drug dealers and drug cartels for shipping these drugs? Let's punish them now. Stop the supply, or at least slow down the supply, and that may be part of the answer. I don't know. Mike Boyd mentions that money is the driving force behind every decision they're making. Mandates, vaccines, open borders, opioids, green energy. Yes, Mike, it's not just money, though. It's power. If you have a population that is in constant fear, if you have a population that is constantly being medicated and they are being allowed to use drugs, and you have their votes being diluted by individuals just entering the nation willy-nilly, and they are having you can't match the energy requirements because you're just filling this nation with more and more people constantly. Those people are going to depend on the government more and more for their answers, for their food, for their livelihood. It's about power. Yeah, there's money that goes with it, but it's the power that comes first. The money comes second. That's my opinion. People may disagree with me. And as always on this program, if you disagree, you always have the right not only to leave a comment like you see on YouTube and Facebook, but to also call into this program at 607-242-1582. If you think I am wrong, if you think I am not compassionate, if you think that I'm an Islamophobe because I say we should punish fentanyl dealers, please come tell me why. If you don't think our southern border being wide open is a problem, please call and tell me why. I'm more than happy to hear that argument. Tell me how I'm misunderstanding the facts and the evidence that we see and that we are speaking about and I am presenting on the show. I'm more than happy to hear anyone that disagrees on any of these subjects to pose any question to me. More than happy to deal with that. But I want to move forward because I think I've covered that. Hang on a second. Okay, let's go to Martha's Vineyard. Let's talk about illegal immigration because we're kind of talking about it anyway. When we're talking about drugs, we're talking about illegal immigration. They go hand in hand. And I don't think I'm surprising anyone by saying that progressives and Democrats believe in open borders. No one should be shocked by that at this point. It was part of the 2020 conversation. It's been a constant conversation for the last several decades. Progressives and Democrats believe in not having borders, having an open space that anyone and everyone can walk into America willy-nilly. We've seen that progressives have used that ideology in the European Union, where anyone can come in. And we have seen as a result an increase in the number of crimes being committed by many of the individuals that walked into their nations, to the point that now they are rejecting them. That's why we saw the Swedish in their most recent election say, hey, we reject more progressive ideology. We need a more conservative ideology. We need to go more to the right to limit these people because that is a problem. Now, I will be called an ist and a phobe and God knows what else for saying illegal immigration is a problem, that we need to close our border. And that is one of the most preeminent threats to the national security of America on multiple levels. We've already been discussing so far how having an open border is increasing the amount of drugs in America, which is leading to the number of overdoses in America. We already discussed that. That's, if nothing else, there's a perfect reason to close the border, to actually have a border. Kamala Harris has nothing to say about it. Kamala Harris, the only thing Kamala Harris wants to say is, well, that's racist, which is not an answer. That does not answer the problem. It doesn't address the situation. Let's be clear about that. And any progressive that wants to say, well, you're just racist, you haven't answered the problem, you haven't addressed the issue, you're deflecting, you're distracting, you're avoiding, you're running away. And you can say that to any, and I will say that to any progressive. If they want to say, well, you're just racist, you haven't answered the problem, you haven't addressed the issue, you're running away, you're deflecting, you're hoping that I'm going to be silent because you said an ist. You called me an ist. Oh my God, I guess I'm going to be scared and be silent. No, I'm not. Because that's not an answer. That's an assumption based on a political ideology that doesn't help anyone at all. You see, user has been banned says, people aren't illegals. My favorite line that is said by the left. Lynn says, frankly, I find him disgusting. Lynn, who do you find disgusting and deplorable? Are we talking about Joe Biden, Kamala Harris? I'm not sure who you mean, Lynn. But user has been banned mentions that people aren't illegals. Yes, you can be illegal. Now, are illegals human beings? Absolutely. Should they be slaves? No. Slavery exists. Look at Africa today. Don't look at the past. Don't look at 1960. Today, slavery exists in the world. It exists in Africa. It exists in America. We call them sex slaves. These are individuals, these illegal immigrants that are being brought across our border to become sex slaves because they want to be in America. And that is a large, thriving business. Having an open border, yet another reason why we need to deal with illegal immigration. Anyone who's concerned and says, well, these illegal aliens, they're people too. Great, then you want to stop sex slavery, don't you? Therefore, you want to close the border because having an open border increases the amount of children and women that are being sold into sex slavery. So we agree, right? The progressives that would watch this, they avoid this, but the progressive argument agrees with me and you that we should close our border so that we can reduce the amount of sex slaves entering into America because slavery is bad. Or is that a racist thing to say? Is that a sexist thing to say? Because I really want to hear this argument. I really want to hear the argument because we all agree and we all understand that sex slavery is bad. Sex slavery is happening because of illegal illegal aliens, they're not migrants, they're aliens. Illegal aliens entering America are being abused. And they are being sold, many of them, some of them, are being sold into sex slavery. And children, too. And so, since we all agree that's bad, we need to close the border, if not to stop it, at least to slow down that from happening. Is there anyone on the progressive left that disagrees with me? Because they can't. They can't. Again, I apologize, I have a cold. But they cannot disagree. I cannot see how any progressive can say they want to protect illegal aliens, they want to end sex slavery, and they want an open border. You can't say the two things because an open border increases the amount of sex slavery that happens and illegal drugs and overdoses. So anyone who's a progressive or believes in the progressive democratic ideology that we need an open border cannot say that they are trying to end slavery, end sex abuse, end overdoses. They cannot say that with an honest face and say that to you directly. They cannot. And we need to call them out for that. We need to say that to their face and have the news media ask them directly about this. If you are saying we need an open border, and open borders means more sex slavery, it means more children being abused, it means more drugs in America, it means more overdoses in America, how do you resolve that conflict? How can you say you're a humanitarian when those two things are happening? Why does no one else in the media ask that question? Why is that off limits to ask Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, or any Democrat that is running for elected office at any time? Why is that verboten? Why is it that Facebook is actively trying to silence this program, and YouTube as well, and the social media giants are trying to silence this when it's a very wide open statement? It's a very simple conclusion. And if I am wrong, where's their argument? What is the argument? And I listen to the left on a regular basis. What is the argument besides you're racist, you're sexist, you're MAGA? Besides calling me an istophobe or MAGA, what is their actual answer? Does anyone know? Has anyone ever heard that? I mean, it's amazing to me. And instead, we get people like Tim Ryan. Tim Ryan says that if you're on the right, you're an extremist. Tim Ryan, as reported by The Hill, said this about Americans. He said this on MSNBC's Morning Joe. Some of the answers will come from Republicans, not the extremists that we are dealing with every single day. We've got to kill and confront that movement, but work with normal mainstream Republicans. That's going to be really, really important. This is a candidate. This is a sitting representative, Representative Tim Ryan out of Ohio, a Democrat, who on MSNBC stated Tuesday this week that we've got to kill anyone who is MAGA, that you are an extremist and that you have to kill the extremists in America for saying things like we need to close the border. This is what Tim Ryan has said. This is what Tim Ryan believes. And here's the terrifying thing, folks. 47% of people in Ohio think that's a good idea. 47% of people in Ohio think that Ryan is a great guy, that he has a good idea. 47% are agreeing with his idea, which agrees with Joe Biden, that being America first, wanting to make your nation great, is an identifier of being extremist, and it needs to be killed, because I want to close the border to end sex slavery, to end or at least diminish drug abuse and drug overdoses. Oh my God, I'm extreme. How extreme can I be? Isn't that the most extreme thing you have ever heard? I want to help America. I'm MAGA. I believe in Make America Great Again. I believe in America First policies. I believe in dealing with the issues of America first and foremost, the interest of America first and foremost in the world and in our nation, because that is a benefit to the world and our nation. And because of that, and in part of that, that means I want to see our border closed. And that will help us reduce the amount of sex slavery and overdoses in America. And because I said that, Tim Ryan of Ohio has said that I am evil and that I need to be killed. That's what Tim Ryan has said. And 47% of people in Ohio think that's a good idea. Where in the hell is our nation going? Users have been banned mentions that MSNBC, people who would run the ADHD camps with a smile. This is the facts, though. But I mean, and we know that Democrats are desperate right now. They are very, very desperate right now. Don't have to believe me about that. That's coming from Chuck Schumer. This is coming from, yes, this is Fox News. No one else wants to talk about it. But according to Fox News, tell me if you think I'm wrong, but Chuck Schumer, in having a meeting with Democratic senators, has already assumed that it is 60% likely the Democrats are going to lose in Congress. That is, they're absolutely sure. Democrats are losing in a landslide. They're going to lose the House of Representatives, which is why Nancy Pelosi is planning to go to Italy to vacation as an ambassador. She's got her vacation plan already set up with the Biden-Harris administration because she knows she's going to lose. That's a fact. And Chuck Schumer believes it's a fact. And because he believes that, he is desperate to keep as many senators as is possible. Because the only way the Democrats will be able to continue to negatively impact inflation, to keep the southern border open, to allow for the sex slavery and for the overdoses of drugs, the only way they will be able to continue to do that to America is if Democrats are able to hold on to the Senate while Joe Biden, or more likely Kamala Harris, are sitting in the White House. Democrats know this is a failed idea. I have no doubt that Tim Ryan of Ohio is sure that he has failed. I am sure of this. But you know what? They're going to continue to go forward because they're going to tell us that you are evil. And this is their answer to everything. You're evil. Texas sent two buses of migrants to Vice President, to Washington, D.C., to Kamala Harris's residence. 2 buses. Let's see. In Martha's Vineyard, 50 illegal aliens were flown in a private chartered jet to Martha's Vineyard. And we are hearing from the left, just like in Washington, D.C., that we are evil for doing this. Where is this? What? Sorry. This isn't supposed to be here. There we go. The governor of Illinois signs disaster. It is a disaster for the state of Illinois that they had to call in the National Guard to deal with a couple of buses of immigrants from Texas, from illegal aliens in Texas. This is what we're seeing. Again, Martha's Vineyard, they've called it a National Guard. They had to call out the National Guard in Massachusetts because 50 illegal aliens are in Martha's Vineyard. Think about this for a second, folks. We're talking about, what, 5,000, 10,000? There are 5 million illegal aliens that have entered America since Joe Biden, Kamala Harris took over the White House. Since Kamala Harris took over the southern border, and is in charge of trying to reduce illegal immigration, 8,000 illegal aliens a day are entering America. 8,000 a day, primarily in Texas. There are tens of thousands of illegal aliens a day entering Texas. And Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts, is freaking out and calling in the National Guard for 50. That was enough to overwhelm one of the richest cities in all of America. They have hotels, they have bed and breakfast, they have the space for 50 illegal aliens. They have the resources, the food, they have the infrastructure to deal with more. For hundreds of people, but 50 illegal aliens, that broke their back. They have taxes coming in from President Obama and all these millionaires and billionaires that live in Martha's Vineyard as a vacation home, not even their main home. This is a vacation home for all these guys. And they're making tax money off of that by bank. They're pulling in huge amounts of money, and they can't handle 50. They can't handle 50 illegal aliens. 5,000 illegal aliens going to Chicago, and Chicago has to call out the National Guard. Something doesn't sound right there. By the way, I want you to understand. Let's look at this. According to the Center for Immigration Studies, as of March 22nd of 2021, and this hasn't changed since then, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 sanctuary states that violate the United States federal immigration law and allow and encourage illegal aliens to enter the United States. Okay? We're talking about California, Colorado, Connecticut, Illinois, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington. Those are the states that are asking for them. And where did Texas, that doesn't want, Texas does not want these illegal aliens. So what did Texas do? It sent these illegal aliens to where they are wanted, where they have been invited. He sent them to New York. He sent them to Washington, D.C. He sent them to Illinois. He sent them to Massachusetts, the very states that are asking for them, that have said it is perfectly fine to have them, that they can come as much as they want. And yet, Republicans are bad guys to say, oh my God, you sent them to where they were wanted. You sent these tens of thousands of illegal aliens that are overwhelming Texas, and you're sending them to places that they were asked to come to. New York State asked for illegal aliens. Illinois asked for illegal aliens. Massachusetts asked for illegal aliens. So why wouldn't they go to Martha's Vineyard? Why wouldn't they go to Chicago? I mean, does that make sense? What's the argument that's coming from the left? The argument from the left is, well, we can't handle that. We knew that beforehand. Texas can't handle it either. America can't handle this inflow. That's nothing new, Texas. Illinois. That's nothing new, Massachusetts. You just haven't had, there is no border with the South in Massachusetts. New York isn't on the border. Although New York does get more than enough illegal aliens entering from the sea. But, Colorado, you're not in the border. So you don't get the impact of this. You may get a trickle, but that's not where the impact is. The impact is in Texas and in Florida. And they're saying, oh my God, well, how could you possibly do this? How could we not do this? How could we not send them to where they were wanted? Isn't that a good thing? But the argument we're hearing is that it's not humanitarian. This isn't humanitarian. Let's deal with this. I want to show you how humanitarian this is. And yes, I know I'm going to Daily Wire. Yes, I know I'm using a right-leaning source. Hang on. It's because I couldn't find this clip from CNN. I don't watch CNN. I couldn't find this clip from CNN, but I know Ben Shapiro did. So I want to show you what CNN reported.
You know, are these trips like, is it?
Oh. Sorry about that.
Just like the trains? I mean, like how bad is it? It's like boxcar bad? Or are we just talking like internment of the Japanese American citizens bad? And the migrants are like, what? Like, it's kind of nice. I mean, it's air conditioned and got food, and it seems kind of like okay.
Are you taking the bus? Tú eres tomando el bus a Washington, D.C.?
CNN. This is CNN reporting, talking to the illegal immigrants directly. Okay.
Hoy sí.
Today, yes.
Sí. Sí.
Tú eres feliz? Are you happy?
Sí, sí.
And you're saying
CNN is reporting that the illegal immigrants that were sent to these sanctuary states, they're happy. They're feeling great. Let's go on.
no one is being forced to go on these buses.
No one has been forced.
They're going on it because they want to.
Yes.
This is a free ride to New York or Washington.
Mm-hmm.
The bus.
This is from CNN saying no one's being forced, that they are voluntarily going to these sanctuary cities and sanctuary states that want them, that have said for decades that they believe in open borders, that they think that these illegal immigrants are more than welcome to come to America, and this is part of America. Let's see. CNN is reporting this.
Pulls away. Each passenger we talk to saying they appreciate getting the air-conditioned bus ride to what they hope is a much better road ahead.
They're going to New York City, they're going to DC in air-conditioned buses, and they're hopeful, they're happy to do this, as reported by CNN. So where's the evil that's happened here? Because we're told by the same left that this is evil, that they need this National Guard, that this is trafficking in human beings, that this is so bad. Who is it? Kirsten Gillibrand is upset about this. They're saying the White House is upset about this. They're saying, here it is, the White House is saying that this is reckless, this is shameful. How dare you do this? Republicans, according to the spokeswoman for the White House, Republicans are playing politics with human beings, using them as props. What they're doing is simply wrong. It's un-American. It's reckless. First of all, it's not un-American. It can't be. They're not Americans. Let's start there. They're not Americans. Let's go on. Oh, well, they're using them as props. They wanted to go. They volunteered to go. They're going to some of the richest, cleanest, best cities in the world with the most resources in the world. That is a fact. Martha's Vineyard has way more resources, way cleaner, way more stable than Venezuela or anywhere in South America for that matter, or anywhere in the world. That is a fact. So you mean to tell me that it is inhuman to take these people and to send them to the vacation home of Obama because it is so clean, because it is so safe, because it is so nice? That's inhuman. That's inhumane. Let's think about that. We're sending them to Washington, D.C., where Washington, D.C. says they welcome illegal immigrants. A month ago, when they started getting the buses, they laughed and said, this is a joke. We're perfectly happy to get it. Remember, Muriel Bowser, 1 month ago, when she got the first busload of illegal immigrants coming to D.C., laughed and said, it's fine. This is a trick, a gimmick by the right, and it doesn't matter. We are happy to have these illegal immigrants in Washington, D.C., that D.C. will take care of them. 4,000 illegal immigrants later, D.C. is saying, we need money and National Guard and help. We can't handle it. For 4,000. less than the number of illegal immigrants that enter America in a day, and DC is already begging for help. But Republicans are bad guys. We're the bad guys. We're such bad guys that the Department of Homeland Security is saying that they want to do the same thing that Republican Governor Abbott is doing. That according to NBC News, that the White House is upset because the Department of Homeland Security wants to do the same thing that Texas is doing, to send these illegal immigrants to other states. Mind you, according to the Department of Homeland Security, they're part of the Biden-Harris administration. They want to send them to the right-leaning states, to red states, but they want to do the same exact thing. So, yeah, John, you mentioned it's kidnapping. Oh my God, you guys are kidnapping people. And the Department of Homeland Security says they want to kidnap them too. The Biden administration wants to kidnap them too and to send them to other states as well. That is reported by, and again, I will show you, this is from NBC on September 15th, that they reported this exact same news. Oh, and let's go further. And Kirsten Gillibrand, she wants to do it too. The illegal aliens that are going to New York City, she wants to send them upstate, to the Republican counties of New York State, because almost every county in New York State is Republican, except New York City and Albany and Rochester. Those are Democratic. That's it. Those are also large cities. But every other county in New York State is largely Republican and votes Republican. And Kirsten Gillibrand, a senator, wants to take the illegal aliens from New York City, where they were asked to be, and send them upstate. So isn't that kidnapping too? Isn't she kidnapping them? Isn't she treating them like a political piñata? Isn't she playing a game? This Democratic senator? How about Eric Adams? Let me ask you that. Eric Adams and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. What are they saying? Eric Adams, the practical progressive, says that the illegal aliens is a humanitarian crisis because 11,000 illegal aliens entered New York City, which is already filled with illegal aliens, and we got 11,000 more because he has open border policy. But it's a crisis now because Texas sent them over. And we're supposed to be an ist and a phobe, because this is inhumane to put these illegal aliens on chartered jets and air-conditioned buses to take them to cities and states that said they want them. Does that make any sense to anyone? Let me go to some of the comments. I know I haven't been keeping up with them, but I wanted to make sure that you get to see this from a wide angle, that Democrats are now agreeing and doing the same thing, that the Department of Homeland Security is trying to do the same exact thing because it is overwhelming our southern border states, and the problem is increasing, not decreasing, but it looks bad for Democrats. Although I think it looks pretty bad that they are begging for the National Guard to handle 50 illegal immigrants. Let's see. User has been banned says, well, they wanted them in their neighborhoods as long as they didn't have to be in their neighborhoods. And that's true. These Democrats, Kamala Harris, President Obama, people at Martha's Vineyard, Eric Adams, the practical progressive, Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, they wanted illegal aliens as long as they didn't have illegal aliens. As long as it was someone else's problem, they were perfectly happy to have the problem exist, as long as they didn't have to deal with it, as long as it didn't cost them money, as long as they didn't have to deal with the resources. Hey, Dal, it is good to see you. I know it's been a little while, so it's glad to see that you caught up with us here. And yes, Sal, you're right. And remember, the Democrats were happy to do the same exact thing. As we reported, we were one of the first news organizations in the nation to report how Democrats, remember when we had, it was 2021, and it was March, and we had all the children at the southern border, and it was overwhelming. Ted Cruz was, the Biden-Harris administration was trying to block Ted Cruz from showing a live stream of the children in cages at the southern border under the Biden-Harris administration. And so the Biden-Harris administration, which still does not let the news media go to the border to see the conditions there, they still will not let the news media in there. But what they did instead is they took all the kids, many of the kids, and they were shipping them in the middle of the night, at midnight, into Tennessee and into New York City and into other parts of the nation at midnight, on charter jets and in buses to be in different states. See, they've always done this. But see, it's evil when a Republican does exactly what the Democrats have been doing. It's kidnapping when the Republicans copy what the Democrats have done, because the Republicans are making the point that your system is failing, that you have failed America, whereas the Democrats were hiding the truth from Americans. And if there's anyone who disagrees with me, I am perfectly happy to hear your argument. Please tell me how I get it wrong, because the evidence is saying that. And the evidence has been reported by left-leaning media on this for months, in fact, over a year. Going back to some of the comments. NBC News, user has been banned, says that he believes that one of the news media had referred to the illegal aliens as human trash. That was NBC. They did it in a text, which was then deleted. But it was NBC that said that. Where's AOC? Where's AOC? Where's her outrage about the way the Latinx are being treated because they're Latinos? And they're telling AOC they're happy. They're happy to do this. There have been reports of some of these individuals. I've been watching so many programs that these illegal aliens have stated very clearly that they've been robbed in their 2,000 mile march to America. They got robbed. They had to live off of unripened bananas. Women were sexually abused. Children were sexually abused, marching to America. And once they got to America, they have been treated to be able to live in hotels. They have been put onto air-conditioned buses and planes. They have been well fed. They have been well bathed. They have been treated with the ultimate of human sincerity and kindness. And yet, Democrats are upset. What exactly are they upset at? I mean, we really need to ask this question over. What are they upset about? They're upset that they're being embarrassed that the border is wide open. And yes, Mike Bowie, you're right. Some of these people are gangs like MS-13 that are coming into America. And again, that's increasing. This open border is increasing sex slavery, abuse of children. It is increasing the number of drugs that are coming into America. And those are the things, you know what? Why is Martha's Vineyard upset? Because they know that eventually, if enough of those illegal aliens come into Massachusetts, where they have welcomed them, where they have invited them, and if they actually show up, they're going to get MS-13 members. So they're going to have gangs in Martha's Vineyard. They're going to have drug dealers in Martha's Vineyard. They're going to have people who have been unvaccinated, that have measles and mumps, that are going to be in Martha's Vineyard. That these people are going to ruin their city, and they're afraid of that. They don't want their city destroyed. They want your city destroyed. They want you to deal with the problem, not them, because they have money, because they're politically elite. They want comfort. They don't want to deal with the MS-13 gangs. They don't want their kids on drugs. They don't want to see sex slaves in their city. So they're going to be happy to have it in Texas. They're happy to have it in any of the southern border states, but they don't want it in their city, in their state. And that tells you right there, the plan is evil. This is all about politics, and Democrats have been lying to the American people from the start. Tell me I'm wrong. I asked the people who are on the left, tell me I'm wrong. I asked the progressives, am I wrong? What part of the left's idea that they want open borders restricts actually getting those illegal aliens that they wanted? For those 11 states, and let me show it to you again, there are 11 states that have actively said they want illegal aliens. There are countless cities. There are dozens upon dozens of cities in these states that have said they want the illegal aliens. Why is it wrong to give them the illegal aliens they have said they want? Give them to them. We have 5 million of them. Give them thousands. Give them tens of thousands apiece. They asked for it. They invited them. Give it to them. I don't see a problem. How is that inhumane? Does California not want to take care of these people? Is Massachusetts not going to feed these people? Is Massachusetts not going to house these people? Is Illinois or New York, New Jersey or Oregon, are they planning to not feed these people, to not give them shelter and medicine? Are they not going to do that? Because if they're not going to do that, that would be inhumane. But since they invited them, since they have all the resources to take care of this, isn't it humane to send them where they are wanted? Crazy. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me how I am wrong. Because I have yet to see that argument from the left. You know, what I am seeing is some of these Democrats, I'm seeing the Department of Homeland Security saying, hey, yes, you know what? That is a great idea. Let's send them to every state. I'm sorry. Every state didn't ask for them. 11 states did. Send them to the 11 states that actually asked for them. That's it. You know what? Upstate New York didn't ask for illegal aliens. New York City did. Send them to New York City. But it's, you know, Kirsten Gillibrand is saying send them to places they aren't wanted. Upstate New York didn't want and doesn't want illegal aliens. They don't want MS-13. They don't want increased drug dealers. They don't want sex slaves. They don't want the cost and costs related to housing and educating and taking care of all these individuals. Upstate New York didn't want this. Kirsten Gillibrand wants it. New York City wants it. Give it to New York City. Give it to Rochester. Don't give it to upstate New York. Give it to the places that asked for it. How is that evil to say? How is it evil to say that? And I understand, and it sounds like we're having problems with the various social media companies like Facebook, like YouTube, and allowing people to see this information. They don't want people to talk about this. They want to hide this from you. They want to ban this. They want to silence this. You're not supposed to ask the question, why is it bad to send these illegal aliens to the places in America that invited them, that said they want them? I don't see how that's a problem. If there's anyone in chat, anyone who wants to call in, 607-242-1582. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. Hang on a second. Give me 1 second, folks. So we're asking the crowd, feel free to call in if you think it's okay to send illegal aliens to states that welcome them, in sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. In fact, if you don't agree, absolutely call in. Now, Dallas said this action by Abbott and DeSantis also terrifies the left. If the populist right is adopting the tactics of the left, they will assume that the right will adopt all of the tactics of the left, which would mean to silence people that they don't agree with, to demonize people they don't agree with, to try and, as Tim Ryan of Ohio has said, to try and kill their movements. I don't know. Yeah, we have a new summer of love happening here. Yes, I am happy, and John mentions that Republicans are learning the tactics of the left, and I think this is fantastic. Let's give them what they asked for. They want MS-13. They want sexual slavery. They want children who have been abused. They want to deal with the medical health of these individuals and feeding them and housing them. They want these problems. Give it to them. Give it to them all day long. And the Department of Homeland Security, which is already saying they want to do this, you can do it all day long. There are 11 states to send them to. That's it. Don't send them anywhere else. Don't send them to Missouri or Arkansas. Don't send them over to Wyoming or Nebraska. Don't send them to West Virginia or South Carolina. Don't send them to Georgia or Albany. Send them to where they were asked to be. Why is that unfair? Why is that dehumanizing? How is it dehumanizing? You know what's dehumanizing? Sending your child, and we have long said on this channel, it is child abuse to send a child on a 2,000-mile trek with no food, no extra clothing, no money, not even members of their own family, to send that child by themselves into a foreign nation with no idea what's going to happen to that child. That's child abuse. And yet Democrats are perfectly happy with that. They're not happy that when that child is taken from Texas and sent over to Martha's Vineyard. Why? It's not abusive to send a child 2,000 miles by themselves with sex slavers and pedophiles and drug gangs. That's not child abuse. That's okay. But taking the kid from Texas and sending him over to Martha's Vineyard, that's child abuse. That's dangerous. That's evil. Because Martha's Vineyard is worse than anywhere in Mexico? Seriously, is that what they're trying to tell us? Dal says, remember when the left started screaming about how sanctuary status couldn't be used to circumnavigate gun control, but it was perfectly okay to use sanctuary status to avoid immigration law? Yeah, I remember it completely. And again, I'm so upset about this because it's so stupid. It is such a vacuous, empty, and obvious lie to the American people. The Democrats are showing themselves for who they are. They don't care about these individuals. They don't care. They have never cared about them. If they did, then Massachusetts wouldn't have taken it took them less than 48 hours to take every single illegal immigrant that has gone to Martha's Vineyard and to send them over to a military base. They got rid of them as fast as they could. They didn't put them in a hotel. They didn't put them in a bed and breakfast. They didn't even put them in a local gym. No, they picked up every single one of them and got them the hell out of Martha's Vineyard before Obama on his vacation could notice any of them. They got them the hell out of the city. Gee, that's a lot of compassion, Massachusetts. Isn't that compassionate that they got them the hell out? They got them some food and said, nope, you're going to live on a military base. We're going to get you in the middle of a barracks. You can't stay at the hotel. You can't stay at the bed and breakfast. You can't even stay at one of their high school gyms. You can't be in that community. You have to go. That's what Martha's Vineyard and the progressives of Martha's Vineyard, these ultra rich, ultra powerful Democrats, that's what they had to say. It's embarrassing, folks. Now, John, you got to remember, John Cordisco's mentioning that he's trying his best to allow posts to be seen. The fact is that we are being shadowed. This is an example of the shadow banning. I've shown you on this program, I've shown you the picture that came from Facebook itself. 21 times they have suppressed our live streams. 21 times in a row since March that they have been repeatedly trying to suppress our conversation with you, the public, international conversation. They're trying to suppress this. They do not want the public to ever hear these questions, hear this conversation, and to make a decision. To say, and it is perfectly fine. People have been on this program before and say they don't agree. Fantastic. We've heard that argument. They don't want people to even consider it. They don't want people to consider that Democrats and progressives have been disingenuous since day one. They were disingenuous when they said defund the police. And Cori Bush decided that she was going to use your tax dollars to buy a $70,000 private security to protect her, not you. They're disingenuous when Nancy Pelosi said, we don't need a wall, but she has a wall at her house to make sure you can't get near her as people are defecating on the streets of her district. They're disingenuous. And now here comes the ultimate hypocrisy. They want everyone else to pay for and live with these illegal immigrants, but not them. They don't want to have to live with these illegal immigrants. This is not for them to deal with. No, they want a better, comfortable life. They don't want to deal with this problem. They don't want to have to even see this problem. You get to see it. It's your problem. You, the American people, because you're not as good as them. That's what the progressives are saying. And therefore, we're seeing that YouTube will delete comments. They will hide comments. That's not happening by me. I have never, I think I've deleted 3 comments in the history of the 15 years that I've been doing this. And they were because they were death threats. That's it. 3. I don't ban people. I don't deny them the ability to speak on this channel. YouTube does. Because they're trying to hide it. They don't want you to see it. They don't want people to know. Yeah, notice people are saying, well, there's some more buffering happening. My system is putting out this signal 100%. There is no buffering that's coming on my side. There is no interruption of the signal coming from my side. But it's interesting that when I am talking about the embarrassment that is the Democratic Party, that is their lack of policies and the consequence of not having policies that actually benefit America, then I get interference. Then you get the buffering. It's crazy. It's crazy, folks. And that's one of the problems. Obsidian, hello, it's good to see you. First time I think I've seen you on the channel. Obsidian says, all truth passes through 3 stages. First, it's ridiculed. Second, it's violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident. Well, we have seen the ridicule. This channel has been ridiculed. I personally have been ridiculed by progressive leaders of tomorrow, otherwise known as Plot, by Citizen Action, by Indivisible New York. We've seen the left attack me as a person in this channel for actually pointing out and giving you the links and the evidence so that you can see it. We have been literally shadow banned by YouTube, by Facebook, by Google, by suppressing this channel and letting less and less people be able to see it, even though we are growing. The number of people who are watching this program, who are subscribing, are increasing, and we are reaching more and more people because they can't stop the algorithm from doing that. As we hit 1,000, we are reaching more and more people, and we are getting more and more suppression as we get closer to that number. So They've done the ridicule. And they've laughed when we said in February of 2021, when we said the economy was falling apart, when we said in January of 2022 that you should get ready for inflation, massive inflation, when we started warning people in March of 2022 that you need to buy food, you need to buy rice and long-lasting food, canned food, because the price is going up and food is getting scarce, they laughed at us. And we are right. Second thing is violent opposition. They have done that. My life has been threatened more than a few times, again, by individuals from the far left, from Antifa, from BLM, from Plot, the Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, and various other organizations. We have seen the left, like the Democratic Socialists of Ithaca, that chapter, that they believe in violence and they have violently attacked people. I have live stream video of them coming up and trying to surround me at many of their live events, showing you exactly what they're saying and how they treat people that don't agree with them. Just for the mere fact that I was showing people what they were saying and what they were doing. So they've already done that. Now it's self-evident. They can't hide it anymore. So the not-so-silent majority said Republicans are, but they keep saying that we're the bad guy. So it's amazing that we're the bad guys for showing you the evidence and asking the simple question, what happens next? Where's Kamala Harris saying how she is fixing this problem? Because the answer is, oh, you don't want Texas to send these illegal immigrants into Illinois, into Chicago, into New York City, into Martha's Vineyard. You don't want them to do that? Okay, what are you doing to fix the southern border? Real simple. Kamala Harris, what are you doing? She's supposed to be this wonderkind. She's supposed to be this genius of the Democratic Party. She's supposed to be a great progressive. She's supposed to be brilliant beyond brilliant because she's a woman and a woman of color. Okay, fantastic. What is your plan? Not a hard thing to ask for. What's your plan? Oh, she doesn't have one. Well, then let's go to her boss, Joe Biden. Joe Biden, what's your plan? Oh, I see. The plan is to try and bring up criminal charges against Republicans for highlighting the fact you don't have a plan. So you're not fixing the problem. You're punishing the people for pointing out that you don't have a plan, and the negative consequences Americans are feeling is because you don't have a plan. They're shadow banning this channel, and they're trying to silence us, as I've shown evidence of, because you don't have a plan, and it is hurting Americans. It is increasing the amount of sexual slavery in the world, in America in particular. It is increasing the amount of child abuse that is happening. It is increasing the amount of drugs coming into America and increasing the number of overdoses that are happening in America. That is the consequence of having an open border, and they have no plan. So instead, they're going to punish people for pointing out they don't have a plan, and you, the American people, are being hurt. And by the way, you, the American people, are paying for all this. It's coming out of your taxes. You're paying for this. Every dollar of this is coming out of your pocket as inflation rises, which they don't have a plan for. Ascidian says, propaganda, misinformation, and disinformation have always been part of the left's warfare. Social media has given it new life and more power. And I agree with you. It reaches more people more quickly without having the ability or denying people the ability to ask questions or to make conclusions. See, if Josh Riley, and I want to point out Josh Riley because I know Josh. Josh Riley, for the people who don't know him, is a candidate for the New York 19th District. I've known Josh since 2015, when he first decided that he might want to run for Congress. And I've talked about Josh a lot of times. In fact, I'll show you. Here's the thing. We were talking with Josh. This is July 2017, talking about his view on the immigration ban. See, Josh believes in open borders. Josh believes in allowing aliens from other countries to come into America illegally. He's all for it. Josh was saying that he was against the ban, the Obama ban on some of these Muslim nations. He said, oh, no, we have to let them in. We have to let everybody in. We need an open border. This is what Josh Riley was standing for in 2017. And he believes it today. And Josh doesn't have a plan to deal with illegal immigration. If you ask Josh Riley on Twitter, where he loves to talk, and he says, you got to vote for me. Please vote for me. I'm a Democrat. Vote for me. Josh doesn't have a plan. He doesn't offer a plan. He says that Mark Molinaro, that Republicans are bad, but he doesn't have a plan to make things better. He just wants you to obey. He wants you to do what he says, what his party has told him to do and say. He doesn't have a plan. But you're not supposed to think about that. Yeah, and John, it's that, again, we're seeing, and again, you're seeing this live, folks. People are saying that the only way that they can get through to make comments is because they have to go around YouTube trying to silence certain people. That's terrifying to me. Because we haven't stopped anyone. We haven't blocked anyone from speaking on this channel. We don't. We get trolls from time to time, but we never stop them from being able to appear on this channel. Why is it they won't have these conversations? Why is it they won't talk to you? I think it's incredibly important that we look at this example. This is the consequence of the left. They invited the illegal aliens in. They demonized us for questioning what's going to happen when these illegal aliens come in mass. And now they're saying it's your fault. You're the bad guy because you're questioning this, because you're trying to let everyone know what the problem is. And they are so bad at their jobs. They are so ill prepared. They never envisioned that the illegal aliens would ever be a problem for Martha's Vineyard, for DC, for Chicago, for New York City. They never, even for a second, thought that maybe they might get those illegal aliens to come into their states and into their cities and homes. It was always someone else's problem. And they didn't care. So they were perfectly fine saying, hey, it's not a problem for me. Remember, Colbert said the same thing. Stephen Colbert said, you know what? High gas prices, it's not a problem for him. He has an electric vehicle. He didn't care. We see this all the time from the left. They don't care. It's not their problem. It's your problem. And you're just a serf. You're a peon. You don't matter. They're the elites. And they don't have to worry about the petty problems that you have to live through. Terrifying. Machiavelli would definitely not agree. But it's insulting, folks. I don't know. If anyone, and I've been asking also, I ask every single, I don't know how many times I do this, every single show, every live stream. If someone disagrees, call in. I ask them all the time, call in. Tell me why I'm wrong. Give me the argument that says I am wrong. Because I will show you the evidence of why the conclusions I'm making are absolutely correct. And this is the problem in America, and the answer to it is voting. These are the words of Josh Riley. This is what he's had to say about this issue. I'm not using his words. These are the states that have said that they want to have illegal aliens. Okay? This is Kirsten Gillibrand saying that she wants to push the problem onto people in upstate New York that never wanted this in the first place. This is the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, that is telling you that they are going to spread this problem around to everyone in America to cover up for the Democrats. To lower the burden on the Democrats, they are going to push the problem to everyone. That's what the DHS reported by NBC News. This is coming from the left. I'm not making up any of this. This is what the left is telling you, that they are going to spread the problem to every state in America. There's only 11 states that actually asked for the problem, but DHS is saying that they want to give this problem to everyone. And the Biden administration is upset. And do you know why they're upset? Because it means you may not vote Democrat in 2022 or 2024. They're worried about power. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Kirsten Gillibrand, Eric Adams, AOC, they're worried about votes. They're worried about whether or not this problem is going to be big enough for you to not vote Democrat. That's their concern. Josh Riley doesn't want to talk about this because he's worried about votes. The New York 19th race. He doesn't want to talk about it because it might cost him votes because he doesn't have a plan. His party doesn't have a plan. So if you actually have this conversation, you might not vote for him. That's his problem. They want power. They don't have a plan. They don't have a conclusion. They don't understand the consequences. They don't care. They want to keep pushing the problem away from them onto you while they tell you, don't worry, it's all good. Don't worry. You know what? They're being evil for pointing out the problem. Vote Democrat. User has been banned says maybe they should send them over to Sag Harbor for Don Lemon. Hey, why not? Don Lemon's got some free time. He got demoted. I know he doesn't call it a demotion, but Don Lemon got demoted to the morning show on CNN. And Brian Stelter got fired. I know, they're saying, no, they didn't get demoted. They just made a change. They didn't want their multi-million-dollar contracts. They wanted to have less responsibility, to be less visible in the public eye, to be less of a public figure pushing political propaganda. Okay. But like I said, Don Lemon, he's been downgraded to the morning show. That means his afternoons are wide open to help as many illegal aliens as possible. Why not send them over to Sag Harbor? Why not send them over to Chris Cuomo in Long Island? You know what? Chris Cuomo, he's not working anymore. He got fired from CNN justly and correctly. So Chris Cuomo's got free time. Send him over to Long Island. Send him over to what is it called? Oh, what's the city with the Long Island where all the liberals hang out? Oh God. It's on the tip of my tongue. The Hamptons. Send them over to the Hamptons. They've got plenty of space. They've got more than enough resources. Send these illegal aliens. If Eric Adams doesn't want them, you know what? Kirsten Gillibrand, you're wrong. Don't send the illegal aliens upstate. Send them over to the Hamptons. They've got the space. And you have to wonder, why aren't they sending them to the Hamptons, where they have luxury hotels, where they have luxury bed and breakfasts, that they rent out houses on a regular basis for 3/4 of the year? Why don't they send them there? They've got the space. They've got the resources. It's a nice place. It's definitely better than Venezuela. Why not send them there? Oh, is it because that's where the leftists, the progressives hang out? Is it because that's a progressive stronghold? And progressives don't want to see those illegal aliens. They don't want to deal with the problems of the MS-13 gangs. They don't want to have to deal with the potential of drugs coming into their communities, sex slavery coming into their communities, children being abused in their communities. They don't want to deal with that. No. That's for something, that's for all the rest of the plebs to deal with. They could send them over to Suffolk, Norfolk. There's a lot of places they could send them. And the left says that this is by the right doing this. We're the bad guys, and there should be a civil war. It's incredible. I don't know. I have to believe there's someone who wants to call her and talk about this. I mean, if there's no one on the left that is willing to speak about this, if there's no one on the left that is willing to defend this, if Josh Riley will not refute a word that I am saying. By the way, I want people to know, Josh Riley, who I've known since at least 2015, actually I think 2014, that I've known Josh Riley. I have met him in person. I've had meals with him. I have his phone number. He has my phone number for years. And Josh Riley, in every comment I have made, he has never disputed what I have said. When I have sent him tweets talking and challenging and asking him questions, he has never questioned anything I have said. He has never, not once, said, Mike, you got it wrong. You don't understand. You're misinforming people. Not once. This is a candidate, a Democratic candidate for the New York 19th. Not once has he's had lots of members of the DNC, a lot of members of the far left that have tried to argue and change the arguments and try and attack me personally. But the candidate has never questioned this because he knows I'm right. And he doesn't want you to think about it. That's their answer. Rather than answering the question, they want to be silent. They're going to hide from it as long as they can. When we saw the left-leaning news media in February 17th of 2021, to be exact, when we told you that the economy was falling apart, the news media didn't want to talk about it. When we said that every time that we have said that sending children by themselves, inviting parents to send their kids on 1,000-mile treks, 2,000-mile treks into America is child abuse, the news media had nothing to say. When we have talked about the fact that illegal immigration increases the net sex slavery and sex abuse in America, the news media has nothing to say. They don't want you to think about it. Instead, they want to suppress this channel. They want to hide this channel for you. They want you to not think. And again, this is why we ask you, please like, share, subscribe. Not because you agree with everything that we say. I don't believe that. And you know what? That's okay. I'm not a progressive. You don't have to believe everything I say. You don't have to agree with everything I say. You're an American citizen. You have your own choices to make. But if you believe that we have been informative, if we are entertaining, educational, if we raise questions that are interesting to ask, and you enjoy being able to ask questions yourself, then please like, share, and subscribe. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Help us to reach even more people, to increase the conversation that I truly believe we need to have in America. Because that's how we get to fix things in America. Some of the other comments here. Dow says the left has also stated that they understand that the neocons and rhinos in government, they would assume that's the right, who on the whole are less reactive, and that they would just comply. Democrats need rhinos. They need people who will not challenge them and who are just as desperate for the next election and power as they are. Because those people aren't going to challenge them. I mean, how many of the rhinos out there are saying, like Mitt Romney? When was the last time you heard Romney say, I believe in America? I believe in America first. I believe that we need to deal with the domestic issues facing America to help us better deal with the international problems facing the world. When was the last time you heard him say that? When was the last time you've heard these rhinos come out and actually say something that is for the betterment of America? No, you've heard them say instead, well, they compromise and they say, well, the left is mostly right, so we'll go with them. That's a problem. That's the problem. God, I'm so upset that they keep suppressing this. I love it. I keep seeing the number of people who are able to see the program. It jumps up, it jumps down, literally in the space of 30 seconds, depending on the thing I'm talking about. It's amazing. I don't know. I think this is a big watershed moment for America. And as that, it's a watershed moment for the world. Our friends in the European Union, in the United Kingdom, in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, many of the first world nations, they're getting to see this up close and personal. And they get to understand progressives do not care. They don't care in America. The progressive movement is an American movement being exported to the rest of the world. And the rest of the world is getting the opportunity to see how dishonest progressives truly are. That when they are confronted, when they are given exactly what they asked for, their reaction is the exact opposite of what they promised it would be. And I think this is beautiful because the rest of the world gets to see these people have no care. They're not concerned. They are authoritarian at every aspect, and they don't care that their actions are making the world worse for their own people. And I have yet to hear an argument that comes from the left that actually refutes that. Instead, they will change the argument and make it about character. They will attack your character. They attack my character. They will call you a racist, a sexist, an ist, a phobe. They will say that you hate women, you hate trans people, you hate black, white, Asian, Hispanic, every type of people in the world. They will call you any and every name they can think of, as long as they don't have to admit, as long as they don't even have to discuss that they don't believe in the policies that they are pushing. But you got an election coming up. 2022 is right around the corner, the election. It's less than 60 days away. And we've got, just about 2 years before the next election for the president. I don't know. And I think it's absolutely incumbent on every single Republican that does get elected or gets reelected that they have to address these issues. They can't half-ass this. They have to step forward and present a plan for America and the world to reintroduce more stability in the world. We need a clear and exact plan. We need to secure our southern border. We need to be aggressive. And we need to be America first. We have to be. Because we're seeing what happens when America isn't first. When America isn't first, America is last. And the world goes into chaos. That's just the fact. All right. So I have had a cold. And I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but I feel it. And I've covered just about everything. Now, I'm more than happy. I'll give it another 2 or 3 minutes here to hear what you guys might have to say, to hear any questions that you might have. Is there a subject that I didn't address today on the international level, on the domestic level, on policy and in election? Is there anything that I haven't discussed that you think is important that needs to be talked about? I'm more than happy to hear that. So while you do that, I want to take a second and I want to put up, I want to play a thank you to our subscribers, especially those that have made donations on the channel, because you guys keep us going. Hang on one second. I know you've heard it before. What difference? Stop. I'm going to show you this. Let me take a second to send out a thank you to everybody who has been so helpful. I know you've heard it before. What difference does it? You make the difference when you watch, chat, tweets, your likes and shares, and your subscription. You make the difference. From across the world, you help us to keep the lights on and the stream alive. You are making the difference to fight the woke and the crazy legislation that we see before. We at No Soundbites Allowed, and I want to thank you for everything that you do in helping us reach our goal, and your likes, your tweets, your comments, and your subscriptions to the channel. We want to thank you from the bottom of our heart. And this is a special thank you. Come on. To those who have donated to the channel and helped us in all of our efforts. We will strive to make this channel the best that we possibly can, because you deserve no less. Thank you. Show's not over yet, folks. I'm not done yet. So I just want to make sure that I just want to make sure that I said thank you to all of our subscribers, and also to those who have made donations on PayPal and helped us to pay the bills, to keep the lights on. It makes a massive difference. Massive difference. Now, Dal had mentioned that Taiwan, one thing we didn't mention, Taiwan has gotten more weapons. The United States is selling weapons to Taiwan so that they can better defend themselves. And that is good news. And you're right, it is good news. Except that, remember, China just sold Russia a bunch of hypersonic missiles. They did that through North Korea. The threat against Taiwan, South Korea, Japan is massive, and it hasn't gone away. But it doesn't matter how many weapons that we give to Taiwan. It doesn't. Because that's not what's stopping China. It's kind of like in the Ukraine. If Russia truly wanted to take over the Ukraine tomorrow, they have the troops. They have the weapons. They're not using all of the firepower that they possibly can. They're not using all of the military tactics and weapons that they could. There is another alternative here. They're training their soldiers. They haven't had major wars in a long time. They're training their soldiers. They're using this as an exercise to get rid of some of their old equipment and to improve the quality of their troops, as well as engaging in economic warfare that is defeating the West. Again, the ruble is at all-time highs. The dollar is becoming devalued. Inflation is ripping across all of Europe and the United States. Russia is selling their oil to China and helping them out. They're not losing in this scenario. So the same thing applies to when we talk about Taiwan. Taiwan, the thing that's protecting Taiwan isn't the number of weapons they have. And it's not the fact that I don't think the Taiwanese people will fight. I think they do, that they will. And I think that they could hold up a very good fight. But the thing that's protecting Taiwan is the United States. It's the impression that the United States is willing to back them up in a war. That if China were to attack Taiwan, the United States would be involved, which means strong leadership and a plan, an international plan that has long-term consequences coming from the United States to other countries around the world. And that by extension, not only be protecting Taiwan, but that we would live up to our treaties with South Korea and Japan, and that we would protect them from China. And as long as China believes that the United States will fight against South Korea, will fight against North Korea, will fight against China, will protect Taiwan, protect Japan, protect Indonesia and South Korea. As long as they think that, they will not attack Taiwan. But they believe that America will do that less and less. America is not protecting Ukraine. We're not even protecting our allies. We're not even protecting our own people. Remember, and we've mentioned this at least once in every episode, there are still thousands. There are thousands of Americans in Afghanistan that want to come home. They have been there for a year. They were abandoned by the Biden-Harris administration. The Democratic Party refuses to mention them, to even hint at them, and will do nothing to help them. Thousands of Americans in Afghanistan. Some of them could be related to neighbors of yours or in your community. There are thousands, literally 10,000 Americans that are in the Ukraine at this moment that want to come home and can't. That the Biden-Harris administration 3 weeks ago said, figure it out. Find a way to, if you want to leave Ukraine, if you want to leave an active war zone, some of these people with their children, figure out a way to get out of the country. The United States will not lift a finger to help them. If the United States is not protecting or helping our people in Afghanistan, if we're not helping or protecting our people in the Ukraine, how likely is the United States to help the people in Taiwan or Japan or South Korea? Whether you think you know the answer to that or not, the people in those countries don't know the answer. And they're asking that question every day. And China is asking that question every day. North Korea is asking that question. Iran is asking that question. Russia is asking that question. Because if the United States won't help its own people, it's probably not going to help anyone else. Not in any way that actually matters or counts. Which means global stability is going down. And that is a fact. That is a fact. So, John, I agree. The resolve of the people of Taiwan, I think, is immense. I do not question it whatsoever. I do question the resolve of the United States under a Biden-Harris administration. I do question the resolve of the House of Representatives and the Senate under Democratic rule. I do question progressives. I do not think they have the resolve or understand the consequences of what they're doing. That's why we have an open border that is leading to overdose deaths, as we have covered. That has led to more women being abused, children being abused, as we have discussed. Because the progressives don't have any understanding of consequences. Because they don't care about the consequences. They care about power. And as long as they're concerned about power, nothing else matters. Which is why I think the people of Taiwan are terrified. So yes, it's good that we are giving them more weapons that they can protect themselves, but that's not really the weapon they need. The weapon they need is a strong leader in the United States with a strong or at least coherent international policy. That, long term, is the effective answer. I don't know. That's what I see it as, Dow. Not everyone will agree. But I think user has been banned. John, that's what I see as being the most effective tool. People may disagree with me. But I think that's more powerful. More powerful than saying, hey, we gave them more F-15s, we gave them missile launchers, is saying that, no, the power of the United States is awake, it is aware, it is involved, and we have a plan. That's more important. That's more powerful. That changes world policy. Dow says the left understands that they are creating the framework for their revolution, but the after effect that they believe will elevate the proponents into prominence while subjugating the dissidents. And just to reword that for the average person out there, so the left thinks that they're going to be able to have a civil war and that they're going to win, and anyone who they don't like will not only lose, but they'll be less than as citizens. They will be less than, and they will be forced to live by the rules of the left. And I agree. Dow goes on to say what they ignore is that any revolution almost always purges the revolutionary. And this is assuming that the left could win, that the progressives, the Democratic Socialists of America, that they could win. If they won, most of their leadership would be wiped out. Look at what Che Guevara did everywhere that he went. Look at what Mao did. Look at what Stalin did. Look at what's happening in, even currently in China. Look at Iran. You can go around the world. Look at Venezuela. Look at any nation that you want to where we've seen that kind of leftist dictatorship. They wipe out teachers. They wipe out political figures, not just in opposition to them. They wipe out, and I do mean murder when I say wipe out. They murder even members of their own party en masse. Because there's very few people who get a seat at the power, and most of the people who think they do, don't. But that's assuming that they would win. I don't think they would win. I don't think that the right would win. I think it would destroy America. A second civil war at this point, considering what China, what Russia, what Iran, what so many nations around the world want, which is the destruction of America completely, whether you're on the left or the right, they don't care. You're an American. That's all they need. That's the only reason they need. They want to destroy this nation. And if there's a second civil war, they will take that opportunity to destroy it all. That's what I think would happen. I know. The left is always, and by the way, for people who user has been banned, properly points this out. For the leftists and the progressives out there that think, no, you just don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to be, when the progressives take over everything, it's going to be fantastic. And I'm going to be one of the people helping to lead. I'm going to take advantage of it. Remember, it's your party, the progressives, that literally overnight abandon their own people, throw them under a bus in a heartbeat for a tweet because someone finds a tweet you made 10, 15, 20 years ago. Because you made a comment 20 years ago, they will throw you today under a bus. If you make a tweet that tomorrow isn't part of the approved message of tomorrow, you're thrown under a bus. That's what the left does to its own. And you mean to tell me that if they take power, that they're not going to purge their own people? That's not the example that they've provided so far. It's not the example I think anyone believes they will do. Oh, we got a lot of comments. Hang on a second. Sorry, family's trying to contact me. Yes, my family's letting me know. For my family in Puerto Rico, for everybody on Puerto Rico, and especially for my family in Puerto Rico, I heard about the hurricane. It's now gone to a Category 1. I want you to be safe. I want you to be careful out there. I know that it's a big deal. Hurricanes hit the island all the time, and it can be very bad. So, yeah, there's a hurricane. It just became a Category 1 hurricane. What is it? It starts with an F. I forget the name of it. But it's a new hurricane in Caribbean. Hang on. Fiona. It's Hurricane Fiona. Yeah. Hurricane Fiona. And so I'm hearing that it's making landfall in Puerto Rico within the last hour. I want my family to be safe. I know they've got houses that have been built to take care of it. I know that the property, that my grandmother's property, has always been relatively safe. It's mostly inland. But guys, I'm always thinking of you. And for the rest of the people of Puerto Rico, I'm thinking about you as well. Please be careful. So I was just getting a message from my family. Yeah, I'm not surprised by the power outages. I'm hearing about it now. Yeah, the good news is that it's a Category 1 hurricane. It could be far, far worse. You know, Category 2, 3, 4. That would be way worse. But, you know, they're going to need water. They're going to need help. And I'll be happy to help them. They are fellow Americans. They are wonderful people. They deserve help. And yeah, it has been very quiet this season. Remember, global warming, the climate change, it's all so much worse. It's been a relatively quiet hurricane season. It has been relatively calm. But it's global warming, and everything's going to die. You've got less than 12 years. Everything's going to die. The planet is... Yeah, of course, yeah. It's crap. But the fact is, but even a Category 1 hurricane is a bad hurricane. And I am concerned and I am worried. And once we see what is the result, we can try and help them. Because Americans are generous people. You know, as much as we get demonized around the world, as much as we have college professors trying to tell everyone that America is evil and terrible, guess what? You know, the first nation that's going to donate food, the first nation that's going to send over water, the first nation that's going to help to try and bring back the power, it's going to be the United States. Same thing that we do for every other nation in the world. The first nation stepping in, trying to help everyone in the world with whatever natural disaster happens, the United States. Who gives the most money in the world to every nation whenever there's a natural disaster? What nation is number one in its donations? The United States. Remember, your college professor told you that America is evil, that America is horrible, that white people are terrible, evil beings, they're racist. And the number one nation in the world that makes donations to the rest of the world is the United States. The number one nation in the world that helps first in every nation when there is a natural disaster is the United States. The nation that stays the longest, helping the most whenever there is a natural disaster in any nation in the world is the United States. But somehow we're evil. We do it all. And by the way, according to the numbers, guess who makes the most donations? Conservatives. Most of the donations come from the very same conservatives that the progressives tell you are evil. Kind of funny, isn't that? You would think that they're so progressive, they're so ashamed of being white, they're so ashamed of having success that they would sell one of their iPhones or, give up drinking their coffees from Starbucks for a month and donate their money, their time to whatever nation needs the help. They don't. They rely on conservatives to do it. Just tells you something. And that's the truth. Sorry, checking notes from my family about how the rest of my family is doing. Let's see, user's been banned since I'll never forget going through homestead after homestead after Andrew. It was nuts. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, Hurricane Sandy was pretty big. It's a scary time. All right. Well, folks, we've gone 3 hours and 30 minutes, believe it or not, talking about a lot of the issues. I want to thank each and every one of you. I hope, especially with the hurricane hitting in Puerto Rico, not just for my family, but for everyone in Puerto Rico, to be well. I hope everyone in America will be well. I advise you Pay attention to your candidates. Ask them questions. Ask them some of the questions that we have raised here. Ask them, what's their plan for the southern border? What's their plan for illegal immigrants? Why are they upset with illegal immigrants being in the Hamptons, being in Martha's Vineyard, being anywhere? Why is that a bad thing? And let's ask them, what are they doing about fentanyl? What are they doing about the overdoses? What is their plan? What consequences are coming from the plans they have already made? Let's ask them these questions before we elect any politician. And then after you do that, go out and vote. Go out and vote for whomever you think has the best answer. And by the way, Josh Riley, running for the New York 19th District. Josh, you refused to be on this channel. You promised to be on this channel to do an interview. You then turned around, refused to actually do that. You haven't answered any of my personal texts that I've sent to you. You won't respond to any of my tweets. October 13th, you're going to have a debate. I will be following that very closely. Just because you're hiding from me, Josh. Just because you're hiding from me, because you know I'm going to ask you a serious question and you're going to have a serious answer, don't think that I'm not paying attention. With that, I want to thank everyone. I look forward to seeing you guys every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Always keep an eye out. We do a weekly roundtable on the Rory Sauter Show on Thursdays. Every Friday at 9 p.m. we are on with the Liberty First Foundation Roundtable, talking about your rights in the Constitution and what's happening to it. And I look forward to speaking to you throughout the week in both our J-Rest Break shorts and other videos that we do, because we are here for you. I thank you. I want you to be well.